where it stops, no one knows. We're going head into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. So, it's been a little bit since I got to see you guys. It's been crazy around here. My little one turned 7 on Saturday, and then was my sister-in-law's birthday and my mom's birthday, all back to back. So it's been hectic, so I'm sorry I have not been on, but I couldn't miss the opportunity to come on and discuss these things with you guys. So hi, Teresa. Hi, little gambler. What's up, BG? Hey, Laura. What's up, other Teresa? Teresa, and there's so many of us. Hey, Joni. Hi, Ellen. Hey, Karen. Hey, Ben Pat. Hi, Annie. Hi, Isabel. JC Marty. Kim Kelly. Hi, Starlight Ann. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Shaz. Hi, Inspector Gadget. What's up? Hi, Jinx. What's up, Rexy? CW. My ATS. Hi, Susie. Hey, Todd. Rescue all the dogs. And Sluethie Goosie. Oh, goodness. All right. Well, hello to all of you guys. Oh, my gosh, there's so many of you already here. I guess I just probably should get through all of the housekeeping quickly so that you guys we can get to the content. Hi, Crime Curious. I miss you. I wanted to let you guys know that I realized something with the website that I have been making, and that when I share the link with you guys, it only gives you to what was updated when I created the link to share with you. So I need to get you guys a new link. So I'm going to do that right now. And then, so you guys, I'm like, you guys have been missing out. There's so much stuff on there now. So I'm going to get you guys that before I do anything else, because I didn't realize that. So I apologize. I don't really, like I said, I've only ever made these. I've never actually like done anything really with them. So this is new to me about like sharing the link and stuff. So I don't know if I deactivate the old ones, what that means, but here's the new link for anybody who wants it. This should get you up to date through everything I did yesterday. But there it is. There's so much stuff added since I didn't know that it didn't just update on its own. That's kind of silly to me, but whatever. Anyway, that's for you guys. If you guys have problems accessing it or getting around it, please let me know so I can try to make it as user-friendly as possible. Because once again, I'm making it for me to organize stuff, but it's also for you guys to have. Is that sunlight on your neck? Yeah, probably. Yeah, freaking sunlight. Freaking sunlight. So that's for you guys. Now, and hello everybody who's just popped in. Welcome everybody. So I need to talk about this before I talk about the details of it, because there's so much, and there's so much that I'm not going to talk about quite yet. In relation to it, and not because I'm trying to hold anything up, but just because I don't have all the pieces. You guys know that I like to make sure that if I'm giving it to you, I at least have all the pieces. And I tried really hard to be organized for today, but I can promise you it's not going to work out. So just bear with me and we'll go. There is an interesting thing happening on social media when it comes to this case. I can't quite put my finger on it. I thought that when I covered the Watts case It was bad. I can tell you that Delphi definitely takes the cake when it comes to social media. There is a very strange, like, ownership of certain things when it comes to the case. Like, people don't necessarily want everything public. I don't know what all the secrecy stuff is. I mean, shit, we've been doing this now almost 7 years with this case. I really don't get it. But what's up, Bob? Aw, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. It's a very weird dynamic, and there's like groups that you can't like share things from, and I belong to a lot of groups. I obviously don't belong to them all, but I do belong to a lot. I don't know. I don't understand all the secrecy 7 years later, why people want misinformation out there. I I find it strange. I don't want misinformation out there, and I may screw up sometimes. You guys know I constantly will call David Derek, and I constantly call Derek David, and I don't know why I do it. It's just something that's in my brain, and I mess it up. But I'm not trying to intentionally mislead you into thinking it's somebody else. It's a mistake. So why is there so much that's just hidden and nobody wants to tell anybody anything? So I bring this up because there's something that happened today that I kind of went back and forth on. There was some information being released by another group of people, and in that they didn't want to name all the names. They were trying to do this protective thing, and I went back and forth on, is this like a journalistic integrity, like to keep people's names out of it? Is this are we purposely hiding the names? And if you're telling the story, I don't know why we're hiding it. So I don't really know. And this brings me to something I say quite often. Human beings we're very layered people. And when you guys see us on a YouTube channel or something, you see a very one-dimensional system of what we function as. You don't see all the layers. You don't see me as a daughter. You don't see me as a mom. You don't see me as a manager in retail. You don't see any of those things. You see me as the person that sits right here and discusses things with you. Now that's complicated because I could be really good at some things and really bad at other things, right? I think we all are. I was really good at basketball in high school. Now, if I went to play right now, I would suck. But, so there's just a lot of layers to what a human being consists of. And I don't mean to take away from anybody's other things that they're really good at when I talk about anybody, because I know that there are things that I'm going to say today that are going to be judged or these people might be judged. And I don't mean that, because they may be very, very good at something else. There's also the fact that as those layers are, there's different layers of emotion. There's different ways that we handle things based on other things that are happening in our lives. And somebody told me yesterday, and I thought it was a really good comment to bring up today, and it was, I don't know why other people do what they do, but they obviously have a reason for it. So when we talk about some of this stuff today, I don't want anybody to go be mad at anybody or to do anything weird. Like, just don't. Like, we're just going to discuss it, and we're going to do it with the transparency, and we're going to do it with as much information as I have. I'm just going to give it to you, and it's going to be whatever it is. That's where I'm at. And hello to everybody that's popped in. I am cold, so I'm going to have to figure that out because I'm like freezing. Give me one second. I'm going to turn my heater on. Yeah, nobody's allowed to go ape shit. Don't be going all crazy. So there's there's a podcast that came out today that I want to discuss, and there's a podcast that is saying that they're going to be putting some information out tomorrow, and I also want to discuss that. This is why I say it's controversial, because I know that there's so many people that have been involved in this case for years, and there's a lot of personal feelings, and there's a lot of history, and I've said it from the beginning, I don't know all the history, I don't know all the players, and I don't know why everybody doesn't like each other. There's most people I just kind of give the benefit of the doubt, and then I will be kind, and that's just how it goes. So has everybody here listened or knows about the podcast that was released this morning regarding the leaked information? I'll wait while I pull this up for you. I'll let you guys answer. No clue. I watched transcripts. I started before I have to. That's true. No, I know nothing. Okay. This is kind of what I needed to know, just so I kind of have an idea of where to start. Thank you. And you have a Merry Christmas too. Heard about it, but haven't heard it yet. Okay. Yes. Well, that's not their name, but yes. Yes, Jinx. Okay. No, missed it. Yeah, that's an interesting spin, and it's an interesting lead in. And then here I am. I'm going to go ahead and promote the situation in a weird way because I'm going to talk about it. Not that I agree with it, but okay. So not essentially no. Perfect. That's where we're going to start with then. So we'll start with the fact that okay, I'll back up just a little bit more so I can get a good gauge on what you guys know. Everybody knows that there was a big leak of information that at my friend Bob at Defense Diaries likes to call a drip. So I titled the drip that's turning into a puddle, because that's what's happening at this point. Because there's little tiny bits of information that just keep coming out. And this is what I talked about with all the secrecy and this weirdness around it. Like, if somebody's going to talk about it, like, just put out what you have. Like, anything I have right now to this date that I have is going to go to you, versus the stuff I don't know yet, which I don't have all the pieces to, I can't give to you because I don't know everything. So that would not make sense. But if they had it and they already knew this stuff, what's with the drips of information to continue coming? I don't get that. I struggle because I've had this issue with this particular podcast about other things. When it came to the Frank's memorandum that came out, there was a statement that was given to them by an investigator named Todd Click. And in that statement, there was a comment made that went widespread. Social media went everywhere. But nobody paid attention to the fact that the statement wasn't complete. And then the rest of the statement came out in the next episode. Did that make it widespread social media? Probably not nearly as much. So I came on here and I told you guys the entire statement, and it's important because context was important. He literally says the first thing he wanted to clarify was where everybody worked. Not everybody worked in Rushville. Then he wants to clarify that they don't believe that these murders were a ritualistic sacrifice. And that's the first part of the statement. And that goes out to the world, and everybody's like, see, the defense team, they're a bunch of idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. Even the person that they're saying knew this is denying it. But that's not the full story. The rest of the story comes out the next day. And then, hold on, I have a tiny human.
Have you started your live?
I have, yes. I'm talking right now, baby.
I want someone to go outside with me.
You're going to have to talk to Daddy real quick.
Daddy said no. Jake said, and Jake was in the bathroom and said
Okay, sorry. He wants to go out front and play, and his dad's on a phone call, so I'm second best, I guess. Okay, so the next part of the statement is the more important part of the statement, where he does say that he does believe the people that he investigated for all the time that he put all of his stuff together are the same people. Now, you're creating a narrative when you do this, and it's, in my opinion, it's burying the lead. That's a great comment. I don't know why you want to hide the entire thing. Put it all together, put it out there, and say, this is what it is, and let the world decide. If you're going to have these conversations with people, why are we hiding the other part of it? So I never had an issue until that kind of started. And so now, I'm probably a little biased because of it. So now I end up listening to certain things that are going on. And today, this podcast releases an episode titled Leaks. This is after they have essentially told a certain group of people that they are going to be making a podcast exposing them. This certain group of people are people on YouTube, people that are me, people just like me. I mean, they're not me, but I'm not part of this, but I'm just saying they're just people. So we're now going around and exposing people. So when I started to go, okay, this is why I said people do things for a certain reason. What that reason is, I have no idea. I don't have any inside information about what that episode tomorrow is going to be, or what information that is going to be so explosive that it needs to come out. But is it okay that this is how this community of Delphi, this is how we do things? Instead of actually following things that have to do with the case, we end up now in these conversations about each other. This is problematic for me. And one of the reasons I struggled with what I was going to do with this live today. Because I don't want to sit here, and this is why I prefaced the whole thing with, remember, there are layers. People can be good at certain things and not good at other things. I'm struggling with why this community attacks each other versus the case. Why aren't we attacking things that have to do with the case? Why aren't we digging further into what's really going on here? So somebody asked me yesterday what my point is to all of this. Like, why am I even doing this? Why am I asking questions? Why do I care? Now, that is a really good question. So my answer was twofold. One, there's a narrative being pushed when it comes to this leak information and this behind the scenes stuff. There's whether it be one narrative, 5 narratives, no, I don't get it. So I don't know how much there really is. There's also, I want to know why. Why is that happening? So maybe that's what their episode tomorrow is to put information out there that leads them to believe why or what's happening. I don't know. Once again, I tell you guys, I don't have like inside information. I don't have any connection with like law enforcement. I don't got any of that stuff. So it's me, outsider, here hanging out with you guys, just talking about it and doing my own digging into stuff. And then anything that you guys choose to share with me from your years of being around. So my first thing was, I want to know why. And I want to know if the purpose, if the actual purpose is to try to destroy the case. Is this just people doing stupid things at stupid times and making a mess out of stuff? Or is there really people who are working actively to try to just destroy the case, either direction? Whether it be from the law enforcement side, whether it be from the defense side. Like, I just really want to kind of figure out the truth of it. And then this is like a side thing for whatever reason that's now taken on a life of its own. And then there's the case. And I want to figure that out. because I started this because I don't know if Richard Allen is guilty. He could be. I have no freaking clue. But there's so much bad info and purposely given bad narratives out there that, and when everybody just fights with each other. And it's so weird. So that's like the biggest thing, is to figure out, is this the right guy? We all want justice for the girls. I definitely believe that. And I think that people are making decisions behind the scenes and working together because they think that what they're doing is getting justice for the girls. That's the only thing I can come up with. That they think that they're helping. My honest opinion is they're not. If you're working on either side of anything, doing anything like that, and trying to flip scripts and narratives and push certain agendas, you aren't helping get justice for the girls because you don't know the truth. As much as you want to think that you do, you don't. There's not ever been a trial that's ever happened that I've watched that I'm like, I knew all that. I knew all that going into this. Not one that I've done. Letitia Stout, I covered that in extensively. There was still shocking things that show up at trial. You don't know everything. So we can think or feel a certain way, but you do not know the facts yet. They're being hidden, and then when they are being released, they're being flipped into 1,000 directions so that you'll never know the truth until the trial, if you get the truth then. Because another thing I learned watching trials and then getting discovery after is that not all the evidence is even able to be presented. So there's so much more to this. So we're going to get into it. I have a special guest that's going to be popping up here who hopefully can come up soon. But I don't know. So that's why I said that's where my Teresa, as soon as you started a timeline for leaks, who they attack. Yeah, it's weird. And like, I've been saying like, and like a lot, because it could, if you can't tell, I'm very confused on how we ended up here, how I ended up here. And well, that's only because you solved this case like 500 times. That's not fair. I always give Christine crap because she'll solve this case and have her perpetrator, and the next week she's got a different one. So I didn't get to read all your comments, but I hope that make you guys understand what I'm saying. I'm going to share this with you. I think it's probably coming across that I am confused because I really am. So as this has come out, we have the information coming that Mitch Westerman, who is an employee with Andrew Baldwin, the defense attorney, for some time, went in and took photos of the crime scene that were laid out on the table, supposedly. Once again, yeah, you gotta, it's all just crazy info. We have Mitch Westerman, who's talking to a gentleman named Robert Fortson. And I know people don't want to say his name. I didn't at the beginning, but I think it's pretty much everybody knows what it is now. It is what it is. Who committed suicide. We do not know his mental reasoning, his state, and his reasoning for doing that. We all can sit here and assume, but once again, we are very layered human beings, and we don't know what was going on in his life. We don't know him personally, or if this was just the tip of the iceberg, or if it was the straw that broke the camel's back. We don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and try to guess. So he gives this information to Robert Fortson. It seems that he was giving Robert Fortson information for quite a while. Now, Brad Rosie, who's the other defense attorney, states in his affidavit that he does know Baldwin has been discussing the case with Mitch Westerman because he believes that he's a great strategist. That's not illegal. He's allowed to discuss it and consult with somebody, especially somebody who worked with him. That's not, he just can't go out all willy-nilly just throwing stuff around, but he's allowed to consult with people and get feedback. Now, this Mitch Westerman is talking to Robert Fortson. Robert Fortson then, in turn, is talking to people on social media. This is really not surprising, seeing as how his sister, brother, his sister-in-law, all his family was actually involved. They don't live very far, and they were involved in Facebook and social media groups regarding the case. So he probably wanted to have the inside information, and he had somebody who was getting it and then giving it to him. So he then in turn goes ahead and he starts giving it to one person in particular whose name was Mark Robert Cohen. Once again, not going to not say their names. Everybody knows their names at this point. They're all involved and they're in public documents. Mitch Westerman ends up saying, yes, I did. I took these photos. I gave them to somebody at some point. Never clarifies in his affidavit who he gave them to, when he gave them, or shit, I didn't pull that up, did I? When he gave them to them. I'm going to bring this back up. Not that we haven't gone over it, but just because I want you guys to be able to see it in real time as we talk about it. Come on. Here we go. So this is his affidavit. He literally says, Mitchell Westerman, being first duly sworn, I was in attorney Andrew Baldwin's office building waiting to visit with Andrew. He was in his office either meeting with a client or on a telephone call with the door closed. I went into the conference room to wait. I observed printed copies of photo evidence on the conference room table. I took pictures of a few of them. Andrew Baldwin did not give me permission to take the photos of the printed copies. He was not present, and he did not have any knowledge that I took the pictures of the evidence photos. Doesn't say who he sent them to, doesn't say how many people he sent them to, doesn't say when he took the photos, doesn't say when he sent the photos, doesn't say if he knows what those people that he sent them to did with the photos. It doesn't say anything except for he took photos of pictures on a table. Now, the defense team and apparently the prosecution seem to agree that the photos that were leaked are the same photos that were laying on the table in August that the defense used to depose law enforcement. So there's kind of an agreement on when the time frame they believe it is. We don't factually know that. I just want to make sure that's clear because, once again, we can all assume that and we can stick it in our timeline as that, but we don't know that for sure. So he writes an affidavit and then he gets arrested, and he gets arrested for coercion. Let me find this real quick. So he says the statement is that between August 1st and October 5th in Johnson County, Mitchell Thomas Westerman did knowingly or intentionally exert unauthorized control over the property of Andrew Baldwin, to wit, images. So that he's taken the photos and he wasn't allowed to have them. Can't get him really for theft because he didn't physically take the photos. He took photos of the photos. So they arrest him for that conversion. Yeah, basically using property for something you didn't have permission to use it for. Yes. It's a misdemeanor charge that he has opted to have a jury trial for. I don't really know why he's going to have a jury trial, but that's leading to a ton of other speculation that we're going to get to. So, and ironically, he's set for a hearing on January 18th, the same day the Supreme Court is set to. Hold on. I just got to pop up. The same day the Supreme Court is set to hear what's going on. A jury trial, it's weird. I know. I don't know what's happening there. Maybe because, okay, that's why I said I can go into all kinds of speculation on why I think that, but I'm trying not to do that right this second. Okay. So here we go. And he's going to a jury trial. That's where we end with that. Now, a couple days ago, over the weekend, we get a Reddit post. Have everybody seen this? I can't even listen to them because I get so mad. My husband told me the veins in my head start popping out. He doesn't want me to stroke out, so he cut me off. He's like, "You're done. You're done." Okay, so we get a Reddit post. It's just all the people and the players just become so interesting. It's, I don't know. So this person, if you guys remember when we were actually reading through Mark Roberts' Reddit posts, I think it's the live that it's called, I was sick, so I kind of went all over the place. But it's called like Marky Mark and his funky Reddit crew or something like that. We read through a lot of his Reddit posts, and on there, this particular user actually, they butt heads. So it's an interesting, now that you kind of know some of the players, like you know who's actually posting things about what. Oh, here we go. Hi, honey.
Hello.
How are y'all?
I guess I'm okay. I'm glad we're doing this.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you guys don't know who this is Sluethie Goosie. She covers very in-depth and does a great timelines on cases that she covers, and is sometimes my savior when I'm like, where the hell did I put that document? And she's like, it's okay, calm down, here it is. So she's going to come and talk about some of this stuff that is going on right now too. So this Reddit post pops up this weekend. It says it's text messages between Robert Fortson and Mark Robert Cohen. And the only reason I say his full name is because Mark Robert was the username on Facebook, but his name is actually, that's not his last name. So, so these are supposedly between Robert Fortson and Mark. And so Mark is in blue and Robert is in the gray. So once again, this is not a full conversation. So this is going to take me back to the beginning of why we can't just get the full shit to begin with. If you have it, just put it out there. But no, it's going to come in waves, apparently. We're going to get more screenshots later, which we'll talk about. Is it a T-Mobile T? No, it's my T. It's T for me.
Literally, it's like, if you're going to crop things, like, that's why I don't delete anything. Like, I delete nothing. Just know I will buy a whole new phone before I will delete stuff out of my phone, because people tend to do stuff like this where they're cropping out messages and unsent messages and weird shit like that. Because if I see one conversation that I'm involved in and it's not the full thing, I'm releasing it all. I've already done it once. You know what I mean?
Context matters. Things
sure.
that are happening matter. What happens before this particular screenshot sets a narrative. And this is where I have a problem with some of this, because the first screenshot is, it should be next weekend. I'm sitting in Franklin with it all. They want me to punch holes in all their stuff and look at stuff to see if anything stands out to me that they are missing a connection on. No context.
Well, and also, when was this? Could they have been meaning, look at the Frank's memo and let me know if there's anything that we're missing there that we need to build up? I say it all the time, like, critiquing, let's say the PCA, right? As the general public, which are the people that will be jurors, if you're critiquing it and picking apart, it might seem pointless, I guess, but the people that are watching stuff for the prosecution, and I don't just mean this case, I mean any case, are looking for the prosecution, will say, it seems everybody needs to see ABC in order to kind of complete the picture, and you can get more detailed. Do you know what I mean? Like constructive criticism.
What is that? What do you got going on? You got a mouse in your pocket?
My son? No. I was in the corner of my living room. I found this. Anyway, super, super long story short, I got bored and I decided to redo my whole house, like paint and
bored
parts of the
walls.
Because
you don't have enough going on. Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah, so I found this like contact paper it's like contact wallpaper, and I used it on my counter in my bathroom as just trying it out, and it was beautiful. So I bought like a whole bunch more, and I've been putting it on like the lower part of my living room. So anyway, I was in the corner and my son took that opportunity to jack the TV up, and so I couldn't even hear myself thinking or speaking just then.
Yeah, you're like, it's all.
He watches shorts on YouTube.
My son does that, and I'm like, stop watching shorts. It's just it's on
makes me
repeat. It's starting to
crazy. Watch a
drive me
whole video.
insane. Just get a regular video, and you can just have the whole story. It's like short after, and it's just like, I'm like, why are you doing that? He's like, I like it. It's fun.
I'm like, you watched that 8 times already, right? Some of them he can't tell that it's restarted. He's like waiting for something to happen. Oh my God.
Oh really, KO?
Right,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this stuff. There's so much I have to say. I'm gonna wait till you kind of lay it all out.
Okay, so once again, my whole thing on this is that there's no context. There's no time. There's no why are we talking about this? Who are we talking about? And so there's an assumption, which I can understand because we all do it. Once again, human beings. It should be next weekend. I'm sitting in Franklin with it all. Sitting in Franklin with all of what? Is this the prosecution stuff? Is this the defense's stuff? But it's immediately put out that it has to be from one side. That's the immediate. But how do we know that when people are only giving us bits and pieces? That I struggle with this. So they want me to punch holes in all their stuff and look at stuff and see if anything stands out to me that they are missing a connection on. Must be responding to something about I have Apophis, because he's talking about EOA here. And I have Apophis, if you're listening, I appreciate you, and I appreciate the work and the intelligence that you have and that you put into your videos. Doesn't mean I have to agree with our outcomes, but that guy, that channel, it's no joke. So talking shit about it, it's kind of funny because it's not. There's that. It's like if you guys don't watch I have Apophis, like I said, you don't have to agree with it, but the level of what's being introduced and discussed, you can't say that it's just like made up bullshit. There's something to it, whether it pertains to this or not. So, but either way, that's enough ass kissing for I have Apophis. I knew the I have Apophis shit was a reset. You can't just keep running different theories as one theory forever, like you know everything and not look like a fool. Definitely a cult following there. They eat it up. He was tying the crime to Five Nights at Freddy's at some point. My daughter was mad when she saw that. He says here, this is what Mark says, other names to add to the list. Jeff Stankard. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but so just keep that in your pocket. Who is this text message supposedly from? This is from Robert Fortson to Mark Cohen. And can we get some kind of context? No, because I don't have any to give you. That was the whole point. Yeah, no, I don't have any. I don't have a time frame. I got nothing. Let me just go in here.
I love how the ones that were chosen. I love how the ones that were chosen to share only have like one word responses from the one who's sharing them and not like the deceased veteran.
Right. Yeah. Where's the rest of this?
Yeah.
Where's the rest of this? It's all very handpicked.
Mark? Yeah.
Exactly. Look at you. That's all I said. I just said exactly. Like I just was totally given into it. I don't know what I want. I don't know that I want to help them per se. I just want a fair fight. I want Nick to stop with hiding shit. Says exactly. I want people to stop running their mouths about shit they don't know too. He says exactly. Let's do this then. He says, take a screenshot of it and send it back to me to look at. Should I simultaneously put it on Reddit? I don't think something too much on there. Now, here they're coming up with the plan of how they're going to post stuff to social media. So,
and we can't see the date.
We don't have a date. Once again, we don't have context. It all kind of will start to kind of come together a little bit, but there's a lot of holes. And this is one thing I really noticed is that people want to leave the holes because then you get to fill them in with whatever you want. And then it's like, oh, looky what I get. Look at what I figured out. And it's like, well, we don't actually know because we don't have the rest of the information. Look at how this one is. I thought about a way I could show you the crime scene pics, or without sending I could show you the crime scene without sending the pics. Maybe photograph something with the pics on my phone in the photo.
So what he's saying there is laying the pictures, like, just for example, laying the pictures out on the table, taking a picture of your kid, and them just happen to be being on the table in sight in the photo.
Right. Like, oops, oh, I took a picture and look at what's behind me. Yeah, so there's a lot of manipulation going on in just what we're seeing, because they're coming up with a plan to manipulate us, the public, with what they have. Don't lose sight of that. Okay, this is a repeat, and the OP, the original poster, says that he was putting something else in there, but he realized he didn't. So that's a repeat slide. Now I believe they're talking about the F tree. One can infer that. Go side by side with the Barbara one. Make it a poll. Ask F, rune, spatter, other. 4 options there. Tell them to list their other in the comments. I'd also let them argue over if it is the actual F. He says, it's up. And he says, here we go. Well, they are all questioning the source. People are too much. No, people are not too much. Of course we question the source. It says, LOL. Some of those people dismissing it without even looking. Well, because they don't know the source. I was one of those people who saw it originally. I think my screenshot of it is like 2 minutes ago on the screenshot, because I was like, is this even real? I remember bringing it up on a live and saying, I have no idea how authentic this is. And then I think the next week we knew it was legit.
Me too.
So,
I didn't even talk about it. I was like, first of all, that looks like it was taken at night with the flash on. So can't be, that could literally be any tree located anywhere. That could be literally anything. And then the more I thought about it, people kept talking about it. And I was like, okay, let's just say that it is real. How do you know the murderer didn't, or somebody that was present didn't take that photo and then email it out to people to be like a Zodiac killer? You know what I mean? So
well, somebody could just walk in their own backyard and put something up. So
for sure.
They switch over to the commentary about or comments that are actually from Reddit. So these are Reddit messages back and forth to each other. So Lordless Warrior is Robert Fortson. Dread Pirate 33 is Mark Cohen's second account that we know of. So he says, well, I have all the images now, including the Holder staged photo. I have no more answers, though. I think it's random, but maybe not. The F looks 100% intentional, and they aren't doing it justice with what they released.
Okay, what does that mean?
Interesting. Are you going to release it? So with this actually has a date. So this is September 22nd. So this is supposedly when he got the F tree, according to the next part that we're going to talk about in that timeline, is when he gets it. And he also apparently got the images that also include the Holder staged photo. So there's, Ryan doesn't really come around anymore, but Ryan Boucher was one of the ones that was mentioned in the Franks memo, that he had actually turned in a tip that had, that Brad Holder had a photo on his Facebook that replicated what was believed to have been the girls. That photo is not there anymore. I cannot find the photo, and I asked Ryan if he would share it, and he couldn't share it at the time, which I totally respect. You know, I'm not trying to get into, I just figured that maybe it was out on social media somewhere, like I could find it still, but I've not been able to find it. And he said, no, he doesn't want to do anything with the investigation. So what he's saying is here is he now also has the Holder staged photo, which is the one that was turned in as a tip saying, hey, so the F looks 100% intentional. So this is when he got the F. So this is before they're making the plan to share it. And they aren't doing it justice with what they released. So remember, September 19th is when Barbara McDonald and actually Gray Hughes was on the same episode, and she was showing that she had the Odin report sitting with her, and that she put the photo up of the F, but it had like the dots and stuff on it. I think everybody's pretty much seen that photo by this point. So he's saying like they're not doing it justice with what they released. So now we're back to the messages again, out of order, I know. So this is where I struggle. Like there's just missing pieces. No. Okay, great. Gotcha. I won't. This little bit, it might be a continuance of here. Like, are you going to share it? But are you going to release it? But then we go back to Messenger and it's no, I don't know. That makes no sense.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that bothers me the most about this, again, looking at this, is that conveniently Mark makes hardly any comments whatsoever. And it's all Robert saying all this stuff.
Well, yeah, because you have, the narrative is that Mark Robert Cohen is a good guy.
And I've said a billion times, if Mark Robert Cohen was a good guy and did nothing wrong, I don't understand why he's hiding. Why does he need protected? Why do we need to keep reiterating over and over again how good of a guy he is?
That's the narrative, and it's still being pushed.
It's bizarre.
I'm so frustrated with that. It doesn't make sense. Instead of just saying, hey, I effed up, and I thought I was doing the right thing, and now, you know, obviously Monday morning quarterback, I screwed everything up, and I get it. No, it's like he's in discords and he's hiding, and then other people are coming out and fighting his battles. If you were here when I did my live with Skip and Julie, they had been bombarded with screenshots, or not screenshots, with text messages that I have the screenshots of, essentially threatening that they were going to release information they had if they went forward with this live.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they were trying to say was that Mark's daughter was sick in the hospital, and how could anybody do that? And then they were gaslighting the situation, because if you questioned whether Mark's daughter was in the hospital, then you were like a terrible human being. Well, here's the thing. The photos that they were sharing saying that his daughter was in the hospital are photos that Mark Robert Cohen's wife had posted when his daughter was diagnosed years ago. Same photos.
And I was in that live, and when that was stated, I said, so I'm like, okay, so this little girl is in the hospital. Why is mom posting pictures that say F you on Facebook and selfies of herself in the car, smiling like while the kid's in the hospital, seriously ill?
Because it was like a ploy to make people feel bad about going after him.
The person that was going back and forth with me said, no, she didn't. I said, I'm looking at it right now. I have a timestamp on it. And when I took the screenshot, I made sure not to crop it so you could see exactly the date and time I took it. Sure enough, as we were having that discussion, her stuff started being deleted from Facebook.
Oh yeah, she locked that shit down real quick. Well, and he deleted his. Yeah. So like, oh, look, you can't find any of my stuff because I deleted it. And I keep getting this. Well, he's cooperating with the investigators. Well, you're not cooperating with investigators if you're in Discord still leaking the same bullshit that you leaked before. So I'm tired of that too, because that's a lie.
And to be clear,
have those too.
Yeah, and to be clear, so Westerman's affidavit that he wrote doesn't say that he shared. First of all, it doesn't say that he shared them with anybody, just that he took them. Secondly, the affidavit that was written for his arrest makes no mention of Robert Fortson sending it to anyone but Mark, and that Mark sent it to podcasters and YouTubers. Yet we're still somehow confused on who, people are quick. Did you read the comments on these screenshots? I was disgusted about
we're gonna go there too.
People were saying about Robert Fortson. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go there too. Yeah, we're not leaving. I'm not leaving. If I have it, if I have the stone, I'm unturning it. If I don't have the stone yet, then I don't have it to unturn. Okay. So that's where I'm at.
I'm here, and I took a leave for my back, so I'm ready.
Well, first, I want to Ellen, thank you so much. I missed that. I missed your super sticker, but I want you to know that I see it and I appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here.
Ellen's sweet.
So okay. so let me go back up. So the response is no. I don't know. It's weird because the question is coming from a Reddit exchange, and it's, are you going to release it? And then we're back to Facebook Messenger where it's no. So what is the no in regards to? If somebody's just reading it and not paying attention to that things are changing, the no would be in response to that. That's not a no in response to that. Once again, context totally out. And I do believe, I don't know this person personally, this poster, but I do believe that they would have no problem putting anything that they have out, because like I said before, they were butting heads. So he says that he's going to put more stuff out. I just wish he would have just done it so it was all straight in context. That's what I want. So he says, gotcha, I won't. I won't what? I won't put it out then? We don't know what this is, what we're talking about. We don't have a time. We don't know anything. This little bit gave me too much of a bad feeling. I wanted to clear up the false info, and it did, but I felt horrible after. Now,
okay, so if you're going to leave me to make an inference there, I'm going to infer that you sent Mark those crime scene pics, and you asked if you could release them, and Robert told you no. And you said, gotcha, I won't. And he's saying, I already felt bad because I released this F tree, and it caused all the, it didn't really help or do anything. And then that's that. So unless you're going to put the whole thing out there, that's what I'm going to assume.
Right? So, but people are saying it has to do with the F tree. This is that whole narrative of, is it? How do we know that? Nobody's showing us that. Hold on. Okay, so now there's specific comments that I didn't screenshot. I was just going to bring them up. There's another moderator who talks about the fact that he was communicating with her, and that she also has screenshots, and she's gonna show them at some point. I don't know. But there's
meaning Robert, not Mark. We're essentially exposing Robert, the deceased fella.
Did I say Mark, or did she say Mark? Or did I say Robert, or did I say Mark? This is what I do. Sometimes I screw up things like that, and then I feel bad. So which one did I say? I didn't hear you say
either. I didn't hear you saying. I only heard you say that she had screenshots of a conversation.
Oh, okay. I'm like, I don't know which one I said. So hi, Unraveling. So let me find it, because now there's a lot more comments than when I was actually. I should have just screenshotted them, but I didn't think that it was going to go this far. But Robert's motive never made sense to me. He says he's sharing all of this case info because he wants Nick to play fair and to quit holding things. How is Nick playing unfairly? What is he supposed to say while under the weight of a gag order? But here we go. We don't know that by the context of these messages, we don't actually know that Robert is even talking about the defense team. There's nothing in here that says he met with the defense team. There's nothing in here that says that he's got a discovery file from the defense team, but there's a lot of inference that's happening in the comments section about what happens, and they might be right, and they might have access to these screenshots that they know exactly what they say. That's not my issue. My issue is for the general public, me, I don't get it. And I read too far into things to just have 5 screenshots of what the fuck. That's really where I'm at. That's what I consider these, because they're not in order. They're not the same. We don't even know if they're having the same conversation. Thank you very much, wife Lilith. I appreciate that. So anyway, so she's talking about that she has screenshots also that she's going to end up putting up. The original poster of this actually says that he meant to put up a screenshot where I'm trying to find it. Let me see if I can find it. Where he's talking about the screenshot he meant to put up shows that he actually met with Baldwin in person. I just want to find it so you guys can actually see it. And I'll give you guys this thread too. So if you guys want to just go read it yourselves, because once again, I told you I tried to be organized, but I don't. Sometimes I fail at that. So let me just be honest with you there. And I should have screenshotted them to make them much easier to show you, but I didn't. So I'm just trying to find it. But he talks about the fact that there's a screenshot. Go ahead.
Yeah, but also, and I don't know how much he comments. You could just go to his profile and then go to his replies and see. But on top of that, we have 5 supposed messages with Robert Fortson, but like, we're assuming they came from Mark, that the conversation was between Mark and him, and
Mhm.
B, we're assuming that these things are even real, like that these screenshots are even real. Like, we're assuming these are not.
You're taking it back to a whole nother step. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah,
Because
like
I'll tell you right
created
now, people can create fake screenshots.
Yeah.
I didn't even
Yeah.
take it that far, but you're absolutely right, and they do. They do create fake shit. Not to say that these are fake. I don't know, but you're right.
And to think that like entire podcasts were published based on reading these type of text messages that were provided from someone, and that an investigation was started and decisions were made based off of these, again, screenshots that were provided by people that weren't even parties to the conversation that was happening. And so I just find it very odd to even suggest that I should have to accept these partial bits of conversation and then he makes another comment about like, I think it's probably the same one you're thinking of, where he's talking about the one he meant to put up. And then he's like, we're like redacting the other ones or editing the other ones so we could put out more,
I
whatever
just
he
read
said.
that one. That one was up here. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the other
So
one.
you're editing them and stuff. So like, I'm assuming that means checking to make sure that there's nothing that Mark, like if they are real, there's nothing that Mark says that implicates him in something. Like, do you see what I mean? How this is very like, there's screenshots where it's not even the entire screen.
It's not.
Like, it's just one message, because it's like, okay, well, what does the one say below it that you couldn't screenshot the whole screen?
Well, and if you're going to say who they're from, I don't know why we're blocking out
what Mark is saying.
What Mark is saying. But like I said, I think that I do, just from reading the history, I'm going to infer that this OP, this original poster, is going to be putting stuff out there. That's what. So this is from the Delphi trial. And who knows? Because I'll tell you one thing that I don't do is I don't check everybody's rules on what I'm allowed to share and what I'm not allowed to share. I don't do that. So if they have a rule that I'm not allowed to share it, then I might not be there tomorrow and somebody might have to tell me what happens. But honestly, I don't go through all that, because here, if it's out there, I feel like it should just be public. Why are we, if I have something that I don't want public, I don't post it on a public platform. That's where I'm at.
Right.
So if there's screenshots that happen to come from a group that they're not allowed to come from, I can't stop that from happening. It's going to happen. So I'm good. Okay. Whew. No, I'm good. Okay. Laura says I'm good. I'm going to take your word for it. Because I'd like to see what happens tomorrow on this Reddit thread. Okay. So
I started
that pretty
scrolling
much
and I saw some of the horrible things being said, and I was like, you know what? For the sake of, in my opinion, this is all meant to continue to essentially trash the old defense attorneys and create public outrage for what they allowed to happen or what they were part of letting happen, all the way up until oral arguments at the Supreme Court. Do you know, I see people saying that the Supreme Court they probably only scheduled oral arguments for this so that they could also embarrass Baldwin and Rosie and reconfirm that they were negligent and incompetent and they deserve to be off the case. And I thought, you really think like the Supreme Court doesn't have anything else to do? Like, what? Then to fuck with them? Like, what do you mean?
Well, you can also tell, I mean, there's definitely subreddits that are more geared towards, whether guilty or whether innocent. And I think I typically don't read too much into it because, like I said, I'm not sold one way or the other, so I don't really care. But there is a very big narrative that's being pushed about the fact that the defense team is behind Mitch purposely putting this stuff out and that Mitch is a fall guy for Baldwin, and Baldwin really wanted to do this.
And they deserve all of this, and they should
Because
not
it's
be back
all
on the
his fault
case. And,
anyway. Right.
correct.
So if you go to another subreddit, though, it's a very extreme difference, and they're very much that Mitch Westerman was hired by the prosecutors or law enforcement to go in and steal the stuff. And I'm like, okay, there's literally no proof of any of this shit. we really just have to go off of what we actually have here and what we know. And then some of this stuff, they're just giving us the little bits and pieces. So here's my point, is they just let you guys fill in the blanks and go, here you go. And then you go out into the world and then you fight, amongst yourselves. Not everybody here, but I'm just saying, like, social media starts fighting amongst themselves, like, that's not what it is, and that's supposed to be this. And it's like, you don't even know what it is because they didn't actually give you the full context of it. So you're fighting a losing battle.
And
that's the frustrating part.
I don't think that I think that Mitch just was a shitbag, and I think he just took it. He was into the case and he shared it with his friend. That's what I think. But then I think what got this messed up, and this is just my opinion based on everything that I've been watching and listening to, is that he shared it with the wrong person, who was someone that was very heavily wrapped up in talking to all kinds of people, inserting himself to the fullest, getting information, pretending to get information, saying he lived places he didn't, to make it seem like it was easier for him to have gotten the information, just really weird stuff. And it's then got sent elsewhere. And I think that people took that opportunity to then use that information to propel their narrative, whatever that was, when it was like that before they received them. Does that make sense? So if I think that it's disgusting that the defense put out this stuff in this memorandum, and this is so irresponsible, and they're causing all this trouble for these people, which I've said it before, like, you don't want them to have named those men in that memorandum, but they were going to be brought up in trial. That was their defense. So it's not like if it was redacted, no one would ever know. Like, that was coming out.
You're going to go into
court
what? And you're going to be like, so blank was hanging out with blank.
Yeah.
Around
or initials. Are you following
blank.
me? Like,
yeah,
R,
they got R and
BH.
MC.
Yeah, come on.
They have no ties to RA. So
yeah. Could you imagine?
I know. Well, here's the thing. I get it.
The jury would be like, I don't even remember who's supposed to be on trial here.
We're going to have to give them the Reddit list of all the initials. But it's probably going to need to be updated before it can be handed over as a cheat sheet. But I mean, I get it, because if anything was redacted, I would have thought it was them, because obviously they're not arrested for anything. I would have thought that they would have redacted those names. But ironically, if we're going to go the legal way, she doesn't care that those names were put out there. Judge Wall does not care that those names were in the memorandum and that they were not redacted. What she cited legally was that she had ordered them to redact the names of the victims. So
that was wrong.
The judge, everybody who's defending the judge and saying, hey, defense team totally screwed up and they didn't even redact this memorandum, I just want it to be very clear. She doesn't care that they didn't redact their names. She cares that Libby and Abby's name weren't redacted. The victims, who the whole thing is supposed to be about.
And
so I get it, because there's people who are going to go attack them. I mean, I felt so bad. And whether Elvis, who knows what Elvis actually has to do with anything. It's not like he's like my main person of interest in this whole thing, but still, everybody went and was just like commenting all over his social media. And
I can't stand that. What are you trying to do? Get him to kill himself? Like, what if, like, either he's innocent, you're going to get him to kill himself, or like he's guilty and you're going to get him to kill himself, or get rid of evidence, or run, or hurt somebody else, or you know what I mean?
Know.
What is how's that helpful?
I don't get that. I've never understood that. Like, I'm going to go make a really mean comment on somebody's Facebook profile, and all of a sudden they're going to be like, I'm so sorry I did it. You're right. I'll just confess now that you came and commented on my picture from 7 years ago. I don't know what I was thinking, but now that you've told me, I get it.
You're a killer.
I've never
Tell us
understood.
why you did it. You know what I mean? It's like, is it
I'll
that?
tell you why I did it. Yeah, I got a new brother.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
gosh.
Like, it's not going to happen. So I get why people are upset that the names are out there. And like so I said, if anything, those were the names that I would hope that would have been redacted. And it's not even just as much for them, but like you're saying, once again, that stuff's going to be out there. And this is the same thing I said about the crime scene photos. They may not end up in the quote unquote public, but this stuff isn't going to be hidden. It is going to be in a trial. It is going to be shown to a jury.
Right.
It may not be shown to all of you and me and whoever else, but it's not going to be hidden. It would be very different if the crime scene photos were taken and erased and nobody ever had them again. They're gone. You know, like, you're destroying evidence. You're destroying the information. I can see the extremity there and why that would be a legal thing. But like, she's like, anybody who's in possession of them, I'm gonna have them arrested. Like, no, you're not.
Yeah, but they
they
didn't.
If Joe in Australia has them, you're not going to arrest him. Like, calm your nerves.
Well, and they just didn't. They didn't even. From what I'm hearing, like, Holman even did the bare minimum when it come to asking people to delete them, if he even bothered to do so. And so, and something else that I always want to ask people, like, when I do hear that stuff about bringing up those grown men in that memorandum, is like, if that's a problem, then do you have a problem with the fact that, well, I'll ask Judge Gull. Is like, okay, so Libby and Abby's names are in there. You want them removed. But like, there's plenty of state documents that has their names in them, number one. And number two, if we have this outrage about these grown men who were brought up, do we also have outrage that minor eyewitnesses to a man that's suspected of a double murder were put in a unredacted public prosecution filing?
No, we don't have a problem with that, because remember, she was busy creating a website in her own words. She created it. You know, I created a website to have all of this stuff, all of these documents put to. And it's like, you didn't create shit. But okay, so let me pull up your I haven't even got a chance to read it, but you know what? I actually timestamped a lot of this anyways, so I might just go that route.
I have a friend who like does because I've said I just can't bear. Something about it. My ears are very sensitive to sounds. Even Bob's podcast for like months. Bob was following me for months, and every time he'd comment, he'd be like, "You should listen to my pod. You should listen to my pod." And then like I'd say something, he'd be like, "I could tell you still have not listened to my pod based on what you're saying here." And I'm just so weird about people's voices, and I did for Bob, and then I of course listened to all of them. But I was like, I need for everyone that has a podcast to go through like a test. And if you don't sound like the guy from like 48 Hours, then I really can't listen.
You're like, I need like Morgan Freeman to narrate this for me, please.
Yeah, Joe,
and I get it.
Like the other day he called our children. He was talking about teaching our kids something since they were young. I can't even remember what it was, but he was like, we've been teaching them this since they were urchins. And I started laughing, and I was like, you know what? I've come to the conclusion that I don't even care what he's saying or if I agree with it or not. I'll just listen to everything he says, because the accent and like the random words, like calling children urchins. I was like, what? Like, but it wasn't in like a hateful way, you know? And pelicans. Everybody says pelicans. I'm like, pelican? Who says that?
He does, apparently. I think my biggest issue with podcasts is simply because there is no way to show anything. You're not showing anybody what you're talking about. And I struggled with this podcast today because of this. And I should say that's one reason I struggled. But the second reason I struggled was because, and this is going to take me back to the beginning of the live again, where I don't know if this is if this would be considered like some type of, they think that there's like a journalistic integrity behind it, but they were like, we're not going to read the text verbatim. And I was like, you're what? You're not? Why the hell are we talking about it then? So now we're just
Exactly.
we're talking about their interpretation of text messages they were not involved in. And I'll throw a bob out here right now. You cannot understand tone or tenor from text messages. Now you're throwing a third party in who wasn't even privy to a conversation with this person and trying to gain context of how this person or what this person is saying. You cannot do it. So the best thing, if you wanted to try, would be to say, here, this is what this person right here said. You take it how you want to. This is how I take it. Nope. Now we're only being sold what their interpretation of these messages are. I struggle with this.
And you're only picking which messages you're choosing to apply to your conversation, whatever story you're telling.
Right. So that's why I wanted to read through the messages that were released first, because they do touch on some of them in a little bit of a different, it's very selective. Yeah, they touch on them a little bit differently, but it's a struggle. So, all right, so I took notes so that we could go through them.
I also think it's weird to talk about like journalistic integrity when like we're talking about discussing a case. And granted, everybody gets an opportunity to vent. Like, you are here day after day after day. I listen for hours and hours and hours, and it's like all information and as much information mining as everybody can. And I'll send you this and I'll email you that, and making sure we have everything we don't have, and connections, and who's that family member. And it's productive. But to put in like, I want to be respectful, or this is some type of journalistic integrity, when you're then going to choose to expose.
I'll just say those are my words, because I was trying to figure out the purpose. They don't say that. I don't think they say that anyway. I say that because I'm trying to figure out the purpose and the point behind it. Like, why at this point are we still not saying this name? Okay, I'll give you that, everything that happened. And then like, why are we switching up the messages? They're not even saying if they have the full messages. Do they have everything that actually went on? Because if they have these types of screenshots that we're looking at on Reddit, then they don't have a full conversation to even understand the context. So then I'm like, is this journalistic integrity? Shouldn't it be like, here's one thing that I'll tell you. So when the one thing I try to count on with any type of news source is anything that's in quotes, because news companies are so finicky about being sued that they can put their own words in, but they can't put their own words in the quotes. And so I try to take what's in the quotes as the most accurate that's coming out of any news source, because of that reason. That doesn't mean it's always accurate, but I'm just saying, like, that's where I try to put the most like of my
it's more
trust
accurate. Yeah, because you don't want to misquote them. But also, I do find it interesting that those screenshots, which apparently people had all along, made their debut to the masses right when a pod that was talking about it was coming out.
Isn't that interesting? The timing. Yeah. So then we're going to talk about this too, but we're going to talk about it after we get through some of this part, because there is, I was telling you guys, there's these groups of people that are protecting this main leaker, and he may not be the person who went in the office and took photos, but I'm going to show you guys how this leaker is involved in every leak that is the topic of this podcast. And they don't talk about that. So, and hi, Glare, welcome. So, and somebody said something about that they might strike me for their intellectual property. Well, I'm literally going to play like 30 seconds. So they can, if that's what they want to try, it's going to be hard when there's like a 3-hour stream with like 30 seconds of their shit played. And I'm still going to tell you guys, I'm going to give you the link and tell you to go listen to the whole thing, because you all need context too. So, because I'm only going to play a certain part of it, and we're going to talk about the notes that I took. there's one thing that one reason I want to play it is because I need you guys to hear. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, it is longer. I was like, why is it saying it's only 29? It was only 29 minutes, and I'm like, I know it's longer than that. I was like, did something get edited? Because then all my timestamps are going to be completely off. But there's a part that they talk about, and it's the words that are used. So they actually say a lot of stuff in this that I agree with. And I know people are going to be like, you agree? What? But they do. They talk about that you cannot define a person by one thing. I agree 100%. You can still think that these people caused a problem for Richard Allen's defense or the prosecution or the families of the victims and still show some type of empathy that they know they screwed up. I agree.
But they're only
when
applying that to
person
certain
accountability.
individuals. That's
Right.
not applied to all, just the couple.
Correct. It's specifically applied to one. And ironically, it's the one that I have the biggest issue with and that I feel like is being covered for, and I don't really know why. But there's so there's words here that also kind of contradict that, which I get because we're layered human beings and we all see things differently. But I want to play this part for you guys. First, I need to make sure you guys can hear it and that I actually shared the audio. Can you hear it? Because you guys know how I am about that. Sometimes I just don't click the right button.
I can't hear shit.
Okay, then it's not on there. Let me reshare it. Everybody's like, no. Okay.
Now
How about
I
now?
can. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the beginning of this, they're kind of just laying out like, hey, we're not going to go into these certain categories, so we're just going to talk about them at the beginning and say this is what we're here to talk about, and this is what we're here to not talk about, which that's fine. But like they said, there's some wording that I just think is very important. You guys can't hear it? Somebody's saying it's like roboted.
I can hear it. They're lucky.
They're lucky. Okay, Grace says sound is good.
Everybody's saying they hear it fine. I do find that most lives, there's like a couple people that for some reason it acts crazy.
Just kind of robot-y. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the part that the wording I think is important, but I needed to back it up a little bit for you guys to have some context. So let me just get it to right where I want you guys to hear what they're talking about. It is robotic. Given the rhetoric and allusions to connections.
Also, she's essentially saying there are people that are doing that, just not for payment, just for free.
Yeah, and it makes sense because you can tell who they are based on their rhetoric and their illusions.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Well, anything supportive of the defense team or Richard Allen, essentially.
Hold on real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so I, like I said, I just found it interesting because it's like, okay, so if on the other side of this, anybody who's out there pushing anything that has to do with the Richard Allen is guilty, you can tell they work for the prosecution based on their rhetoric and their illusions.
No, because they're not, and again, this is not how I feel, but they're not illusions, they're facts and evidence. You know what I mean? Because the
Right,
prosecution knows everything, and
there's-
everything is true that they say, and everything the defense says is a lie. They pulled it all out of their asses. Nothing they say is true. Even when they quote it, even when it came from law enforcement, it's not. You know what I mean? It's like, make the argument but be fair. You know what I mean? Make the argument be fair.
This is interesting that the scribbles don't make sense for the amount of information. Maybe that she has some type of shorthand that looks like scribbles. It's Sluethie, Goosie, Heather. Yeah, because their opinion is different.
I also think that
Go ahead.
I also think that that's a lead-in to what they announced their next episode's going to be about too. That comment, the one that you're talking about specifically.
Yep. I absolutely think so. They're setting it up to give you a narrative, and by using certain words, like anybody who is speaking on behalf of the defense, we understand because of their rhetoric and their illusions that they're putting out there to the world. But that's what I'm saying. Like anybody who's on the quote unquote defense side could easily say the same thing. Hi, Sniper. And now added to these two project when they designated the gatekeeper. And they really do. They think that they can gatekeep this information. And so when you brought up earlier, Sluethie, that the timing of the screenshots going out onto Reddit, and then all of a sudden this comes out, we can imply that the people put it out on Reddit because they wanted to be the first, or we could also imply that the murder sheet was upset that they weren't able to put all of it out themselves, and so now they're just putting it out, right?
Well, yeah, like recording a episode about the leaks and then releasing it days early before the funeral instead of where you intended, which was after the funeral of the person who died, because people were talking.
So here's something that I want people to also keep in mind, and I should have grabbed these screenshots and I didn't. There was this huge narrative that was being pushed when the memorandum was coming out about, or not when the memorandum, when the crime scene photos were being talked about. Everybody kept trying to say that the people who received the photos were all pro-defense. And on One Life, I sat here and made a list of everybody who originally in the first few days talked about having the photos, and they were all pro Richard Allen is guilty. So we have a situation where somebody is saying they're getting information, they're giving it to Mark, and then all of a sudden that information goes to, besides Rick Snay, which I think was their downfall. I'm telling you, we talked about this on here, Sluethie. Like, I think it was their downfall. Because they didn't realize that. Go ahead.
I told you from minute one when you started discussing this, when it first happened, that it was my opinion that it being sent to Rick Snay was Rick Snay's never going to be able to keep this to himself. And he's going to release it everywhere. And then it'll be like, untraceable at that point, because it'll have been Rick that was like the main. Again, this is not what happened. I think this is just what was expected to happen, because when you put everything together in the sense that like he got them and he didn't release them, then random people that should have had no clue he had them was telling him they knew he had them, and then he finally put out a statement because they were doing so. And
all very strange.
yeah, I think it caused questions that were kind of different from the questions that were expected when we were essentially like making the plan ourselves, if that makes sense. Like we were prepared for these questions, but not these questions. We were going to cover these ones, but now that they're going a different way, which is not what we expected, now we, you know what I mean? I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that we're even still talking about this. Not because like us personally, I feel like are still talking about this because it's not clear, and it has such extreme repercussions for many people that it's difficult to just kind of let it go without being some type of accountability. But as for other areas, other places, I just don't understand why it's still being talked about, and like you said, so vaguely and being drug out over and over, further and further and further, instead of just putting all the information out there.
Right. I was typing an answer to a question, but I'll just answer it. So here's the thing, Heather, can we clear up which content creators got the photos, please? It's tough now because they have been spread further. To say who got them first, there's no way I can positively say that. What I can say is the first people to talk about having them. Mm-hmm. That's all I have proof of, and those are the ones that I lean more towards the fact that Richard Allen is guilty, besides Rick Snay. So Rick Snay from Delphi After Dark, Fig Solves, Gray Hughes, Sleuth Intuition. Like I said, but I don't know the pattern on how anybody got them, and nor am I even trying to figure that out. That's irrelevant to me. I know that other people want to figure out the pattern of how everybody got them. I'm only telling you guys that, and this doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I actually like most of those creators. So this isn't to throw anybody out there because they were sent them, which is different than what we're talking about here, in my opinion. Who else? Ruckus Rocks. Who else who am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody.
Well, see, the problem is I think that when some people got it, they sent it to like other people that weren't part of the original choice of who got them. You know what I mean? So if we're talking about that makes a pattern of people that were chosen.
A lot of those people are friends. So did they just share them amongst each other? I think that's very possible too. Were they sent to one of them and that one shared them? I don't know that. So, yeah. And I don't know that either. I've heard that, but I'm trying to not give you guys like shit that I don't actually know. All I know is those were the first ones that actually talked about them. What's up with the new letter?
Yeah, there's a new filing. It says that there was a correspondence from Robert Baston, another one today.
Okay.
And it's I haven't got a chance to send an email yet to see if they'll give me that. But I think others have, and they haven't been given it. So there's no way to know what it is, but it's not available. Like it's not clickable. And my whole, like, I thought the whole purpose of what was said by the Supreme Court and what Gall said she had done was that they were going to complete the CCS to where you can like actually go into the docket and click on each, whatever the name of the document is, the filing, you could click on it and you still can't.
Fiend said the Unraveling posted the whole thing. Are we talking about that document?
Did they get it?
I have no idea because this is all happening.
Here.
Really, Kay? Said, yeah. I thought that he did his own diagram, I thought. Okay, if that's not true, then I want to make sure I take that back, and you guys, then I don't want to add in, like I said, I really try not to put out bad info, Let me go look at the unraveling.
I have she sent it to my email. I can forward it.
Okay.
Well, just because I know it's easier than trying to pull up pictures on Twitter because for some reason you can't zoom in and it's all handwritten. It's a lot. Hold on.
Okay.
I didn't even know.
I don't even know if it's something to break into what we're in the middle of or not. I just want to, if it's something important, I'll bring it up. But if not, we'll just keep going with what we're doing.
I can scan it and then let you know if you want to talk about something, and I'll jump in if
Okay.
it's okay.
Okay. So where are we at? So that's why I'm saying I don't know if one of those creators got it and gave it to the others. What I'm saying is that there was this whole thing that and maybe here, once again, there's this gatekeeping of information. These things should be very easily known or accessed. If somebody has it, then why not just say it instead of the roundabout stuff? But there's there was supposedly these mass emails that were sent out in the Mitch Westerman probable cause. They actually, let me take this down. They actually talk about the only person that they say in that arrest affidavit is Mark Robert. That's it. Defense Diary says he posted it, and the first link didn't work. That's why he took it down. They don't talk about that he gave this information to anybody else. They say that Westerman took the photos. Westerman gave it to Robert Fortson. Robert Fortson gave it to Mark Robert Cohen, and then it was dispersed from there. Now, how is it that this is a lie? This person who wrote this probable cause affidavit is not telling the truth, but the persons who wrote the other probable cause affidavit are absolutely telling the truth. Shit, I don't know. Now, we hear again today. Yeah, Chelsea, that's my question. I don't get it. And the only reason, I'm trying not to assume shit. So but I'm going to tell you my opinion. My opinion on why everybody's protecting Mark is because he has access to information they want. And I am very, very curious to see when the time comes that they all get the information they're looking for, how quickly Mark Robert Cohen becomes nothing to them. I'm just going to say that right now. Hi, Matt Sullivan. Welcome. That's the only thing that makes any sense, because they're not protecting anything that's like an integrity of an investigation or anything like that. Everybody keeps saying like, they're still investigating the leaks. And, he's cooperating. I told you guys this earlier, but he's in Discords telling people information still to this day. Well, I should say till yesterday. At least.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's true. That I don't even think they're still like investigating the leaks, because I know of an email that was sent well over a month ago to Jerry Holman directly, and there was no response in the sense of being curious what information might be had or what was known about the leaks. So.
Okay, so I'm not going to play any more of their stuff, but what I'm going to say, I'm going to go through the notes that I took, because there's some comments that are made. They talk about the clothing pics that they received in anonymous email on December 20th of 2022. And they call this person an internet crank. I don't know that terminology. I'm assuming that's probably not a good person that types with the same unhinged style and desperate for attention. And they wanted to give them the clothing pics. I like Matt Sullivan. I talked about his videos and that he's actually the only person who ever did a voice comparison that I actually thought was spot on. Other than that, I've never heard one other than his that I actually agreed with. But that's neither here nor there. Enough ass kissing for Matt Sullivan. They talk about that, but the pictures of the clothing were like grainy and they weren't really like that important. Yet it's ironic because they spread like wildfire once Gavin Fish put them up. I didn't even know who the hell Gavin Fish was until he put those photos up. So people really were interested in them, but they want to downplay now that they thought this person who was trying to give them these images was unhinged and so on and so forth. Now, I will
Also,
tell
they
you
didn't look
guys.
grainy to me. Did they look grainy to
No, they're
you?
perfectly clear. No, they're
Oh,
perfectly
okay.
clear.
Okay.
Mommy,
So, yes, honey.
what
I'm trying to see what everyone's. Oh, apparently the internet crank is the people they're planning to dox in their episode. Oh, in your opinion. Yeah, who knows? You know,
Well, I don't know, because they're talking about this internet. That's a different one, because they refer to two different types of people as internet cranks. And I think they're actually referring to two different people. My honest opinion is I actually thought they were talking about Chris Todd back for the December 20th one. That's literally the only one that around that time frame with the whole clothing pics and the December 3rd, he was on court TV talking about that he had the pics. So that's actually who I originally thought they were talking about. But then I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute. Do you guys remember when I had Skip and Julie on and we were showing Skip's messages and he actually is trying to get Skip to introduce him to the murder sheet at around this time frame.
Am I imagining it, or was that also where I heard that he was saying, someone was saying something about having somebody that would pay money for stuff like that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And remember, he was talking about that he had quote unquote crime scene photos. And he was saying something about that he had a photo of something that looked like there was a tripod and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm like, isn't that interesting that at that time, that murder sheet supposedly told Skip they were not interested in talking to Mark Cohen. They did not want to have a conversation with him. Around the exact same time that this internet crank is emailing them wanting to talk about these photos. So I found that quite interesting because I was like, okay, I don't think people realize that the first time that they were really coming out on social media without the watermark. Actually, I'm going to bring this up because I think it's important. Well, if I can find it. So, and what I want to show you guys is everything that's happened since Richard Allen had a defense team. So you kind of have to look at the timing of it that way. So we'll talk about the clothing pics. The first person who starts posting the clothing pics without Gavin Fish's watermark is none other than Mark Robert. Hi, Seth. So somehow Mr. Cohen over here had access to those photos as well. So we can't discount that. Then we have the thumb drive map, which we know came from Woodhouse, was given to none other than Mark Robert Cohen, who starts taking them and sending them to admins of groups or Reddit and whatnot, and they start getting posted and dispersed. He goes on to Reddit. We went through all of his messages. He goes on to Reddit and says he released 5 of them publicly, and he sent 2 of them privately. So that's all I have access to is those 7. I don't have any secret ones. So there's that. But who's the one that's sending them out? Who's the one that's posting them? Who's the one that's discussing them? Same person.
Yeah, and I also feel like if you were going to give someone something to show that you had information, wouldn't you kind of lead with like, wouldn't your thought be, well, if I give this person these clothing pics, then I'll look legit when they go to other people and say, this might be a legitimate source for you. And then provide the extra information. Or here's the thing, Mark Cohen, like in all the screenshots I've seen, was going around telling people certain stories, different stories, and getting information from people and then sharing that information with others to make it look like he has a way of obtaining that information so that they would share more information. Does that make any sense?
Yes. So, and yes.
And this man's
and
dad
I
was
will
a judge.
100%
Like,
agree with you that is used like a validation of, look, I already have all this inside scoop, so why don't you just go ahead and share with me what you've got, kind of thing. I agree with you.
And also, you know, what would be the point of messaging all of a sudden and saying, oh my gosh, I got these pictures? Like, if you've inserted yourself to the point where you're doing all that, you're doing the most and talking to people, and let's just say you randomly did, from one of the people that you were talking to, you got these horrid crime scene photos, right? Did you not expect that something like that would happen at some point? Number one. Number two, why not go to law enforcement yourself? I need to understand that. Why provide a bunch of screenshots to someone who wasn't in the conversation and tell them to provide that information to law enforcement?
Oh, hold on. I missed Lambert's thing. Oh, I agree with you. That never made sense. He didn't know how to contact law enforcement. But if you actually listen to what the murder sheet says. Hold on. I'm trying to find her comment. Hold on. It's running around bragging about Ellie leaking to him, and he even names they use this to fire lawyers and see Todd is okay leaking. This proves the judge used this to remove counsel. I think we're talking about two different things. And we're talking about two different, unless you have another comment. And I don't know about hold on. I'm trying to find your comment about being related.
To three people. Oh, shoot. I can only go up so far.
I know, me too. So I'm trying to find. You guys do not fight with each other in chat. I'm telling you. That's like literally the only thing I got is you guys have to be kind to each other. I don't give a shit if you like each other or if you agree with each other. Don't talk to each other. I can't find the one she's talking about being related.
No,
Can you type it in, please? Because I can't find it.
Yeah, Mark Robert Cohen's father was a judge in Texas, yes, where he's always lived,
Correct.
not in Indiana. Though some people thought that, and I think you and I talked about this once before when we were talking about the conversations with Woodhouse. First of all, if the defense did at some point go like randomly speak, like say that was the story that was going around, was the defense decided to reach out to Brandon Woodhouse. Let's say that. Well, he says himself in those messages that he practices Odinism. So it wouldn't be that weird for them to contact a local person who had that information. They also mentioned something about Turco, the fact that certain people had mentioned Turco prior to the defense doing it. I'm here to tell you that it took 3 seconds to look up who is a professor at that college. Like when that came out in the defense filing, I messaged somebody and I was like, oh my God, like we were right. Like we were just like looking.
It is the same
could
person.
This be him? I'm like downloading his book and shit. And I'm like, could this be him? I mean, this could be him. If not, they should probably go talk to him. And then all of a sudden that was who it was. So like, it's not like that weird. There's not that many, which is also why it was interesting that it was like, we don't know who it was, or like if we'll ever find them. There's only one.
Yeah, a simple Google search will suffice.
Literally, it took 3 seconds. And, you know, Woodhouse at one point, and this is something else that bothers me, and this was back in August, right? All of those messages, which I put into a PDF because they were easier to read that way. And at one point, Mark tried saying to Brandon that he was like, do you think that Baldwin leaked these to you on purpose.
That's what he wanted.
Correct. But unfortunately for that, I guess, narrative, Woodhouse was like, I don't know, but no, I don't really think so. I doubt it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, okay, well, he did that before, right? Left it on the hood of a car. It was all very much leading up to then say that almost essentially that this whole time, what they were implying was that Baldwin was trying for ages to leak this information, like all different information. You know what I mean? And when I think about,
that's the narrative that's being pushed, absolutely, is that
people are
Baldwin was
saying
trying
that
to
it's
leak.
not. People are saying that it's not, though. Like, people are saying, we're not saying that they had anything to do with it. But when this all came out for the very first time, the initial story that like essentially the equivalent of a PCA that comes out, okay, the very first information that we were given was that it didn't take long for us to realize where this information was coming from, and it was the defense. And the reason I also have an issue with that is that, do you know, Teresa, that the defense has not, well, up until that filing that I read, had not actually seen the crime scene photos that were supposedly stolen from them. They were described by Holman what they looked like, and they said that that could have been the ones that they were using for depositions. But they weren't brought to them and said, these are what these people that received this leak were given. Do these look familiar, and were these on your table? Does that not rub you the wrong way?
Well, yeah, because there's other photos. Well, also
So
think about the
exactly.
fact
So what if they're not?
they're different. I'm telling you, they are. I'm telling you, they're different. I have no proof of it, but I'm telling you, my gut is there. There's no way. If they knew exactly where these photos came from, why would they contact David Erskine on 10/15 and 10/18?
Here's another
Why do
question.
they care what David Erskine has to say about Mitch Westerman taking photos from the defense team? There's
Right. And here's
no
another
way.
question. Why
When
did if Robert Fortson knew that these photos and this information he was obtaining came from Westerman, and he knew that that was a legitimate source because he knew where he worked, and he knew that he was close with Baldwin and would get actual legitimate information, right? If
right.
that was where he got them, why did he say that the picture of the F tree looked like it was same thing most people said? Why did it look like it was taken at night with a flash? Because it couldn't have been. Like, if it came from the people that actually processed the crime scene while they were there with the girls, they had the entire day to take photos, it wouldn't have been a nighttime photo. It also
Right.
wouldn't have been such a garbage photo. Like, I'm confused why it was such a shitty photo. Like, was that
Well,
that
because
person's first day taking crime scene
you
photos?
have to remember they sent this photo back and forth to each other supposedly, and they
And
screenshotted it back and forth.
yes,
Or for whatever
yes,
reason, they purposely did this. And this is what I'm saying. It was intentional to try to mislead the public. Now, you're telling me that Mark Robert thinks Richard Allen's guilty, but on the flip side, you have Robert Fortson, who supposedly now the narrative is being pushed that he was actually given the entire discovery file to poke holes in it.
yeah.
But these two are just like, oh yeah, we're besties. Let me just share everything that we have with each other. What?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
also
he's a
it's
case
like,
follower. He's a case follower who manipulated people for information. And he
wait,
tells
who,
them what
Mark?
they want to hear. Yes. He
A
tells them what
hundred
they want to
percent.
hear in order to get that
You can look
information.
at different screenshots, and in 1 minute he's saying he doesn't think Richard Allen's the person. It depends on who he's talking to and what information he's trying to obtain from them. Period. So
Yeah.
why are we talking about, and trust me, I'm not saying that there should be like an all-out war against this person, that people should start going crazy and coming at his neck and shit like that. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is if you're going to continue to talk about this, which that's your prerogative, if you're going to keep talking about this, don't preach to me that this is a good person and they, didn't do
Right.
anything wrong. They wanted it to go to law enforcement, because prior to you getting the photos, that person was also, they had completely consumed themselves with the case and inserted themselves so deeply into this that they were actually getting evidence, missent evidence, stolen evidence. He put himself in that position to do that, to get that, to receive that information. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a difficult time. And that's also like, that's a lot of time. Okay. I'm here to tell you, I've been a sick child. I've been a sick child. My mother literally, I was 20 years old when I was sick. And my mother happily left her job to be with me all the time. And it made me nuts, dude. I was like,
And we don't
I
know.
was
I don't know if the
drugged.
wife did that or not. I don't know enough about them personally to say anything like that. I don't know if the mom did that or not. I don't know.
No, what I'm saying is we're talking about a level of all hours of the days and nights, and it takes a lot. I'm here to tell you, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to have all these. I hardly ever answer my DM. I talk to you all the time, and there will be days where I will not respond. And so it's like it's extremely time consuming to have gathered all of that information. And I guess what it boils down to is I'm having a difficult time with the fact that I guess it put me over the edge when I read those comments on Reddit in response to this, um, these photos about these conversations with someone that's not here anymore, because the horrible generalizations about this man's character,
Mm-hmm.
it, and it's not like we're getting the opportunity to like stop talking about him, because now we're purposely putting out things um to like show what kind of mindset he was in, and it's all just to paint the defense in one way. I'm sorry, but that's what it comes down to. I'm sorry, you'll not tell me that that's not what it is, that this is not coming down to painting this entire story to look a particular way, so that under no circumstances does the defense come back into this case. And I can't understand why you wouldn't want that, and I can't understand dragging this out, um, for a family, several families, because we're talking about Abby and Libby's family too, but dragging out this whole leak thing out of spite. Is it spite or being
This is what I was
facetious?
saying. Like, why not? If you have the info, put it out there. Let's put it to bed and all move on. But
Because then
this is what I was
it
like,
would be
these
to
drip,
bed.
drip, 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 drip. Like, it's like,
Yeah, they don't.
oh, we're gonna put out 4 screenshots. Then tomorrow we're gonna add another 2. We're not gonna tell you what
Yeah,
context they actually belong in. And it's like, seriously?
it'll keep
Why?
going on
If
like that.
if it's if we want it to be over, let's just let it be over and put it out there. Put everything you got out there, let it go, and that's what it is. So
But I don't
Aspen
think
says
people
that his
want it to be
understanding
over.
of the F tree was not immediately noticed, and once the scene was lit up with artificial light, such as luminol, the F symbol was discovered, and the pic was taken at night. I agree that the pic was taken at night and probably was not immediately noticed. My problem is if you are going to put where's the picture with the luminol, because that's actually going to tell you more about blood spatter than anything that's just a light like that. And we also know that there's 2 versions of the F tree. There's a darker one and a lighter one. So somebody, whichever one that this passed through, decided before it got posted that there is a reason to change the coloring of it. So my only thought is, if you look back at other crime scene photos and you want to see like the actual effects of blood spatter, you see it with the luminol, not with a bright ass light on it like that. That's my problem with the luminol thought. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I don't know. Don't be talking about
That's
HCC. I like HCC. You leave him alone.
that's a question for Ed. We'll have to see if we can get an answer to that, like
Right.
luminol wise. But at the same time, also, I wonder first of all, you know what happened. Have you ever had somebody send you like a screenshot of something and it's so blurry that you can't even, it's like, you know what it's supposed to say, so your brain like fills in what the words are, but it's so freaking
Correct.
blurry that it's like, okay, that happens when people screenshot something and screenshot it and then screenshot it and screenshot it again instead of downloading it and then sharing it that way. Okay, so all the pixels start getting all, I don't know much about it, but like whatever it is that they do, that they start getting like weird and blurry. What changes, like if the discussion was, is it an F, is it not an F, if it's not, what is it a rune, is it, like, if that was meant to be the discussion, why do anything, like, you're putting out something that only is in the discovery, right? Or apparently that maybe some people, civilians have, but in the next breath you've said that you cropped them because you took out the evidence markers, right? But why did you take out evidence markers? Like, what's the purpose of removing that stuff or editing the photos in any way when we all see them, it'll be clear that like it came from evidence. Do you know what I mean? Like cropping it out,
Right.
you can't like crop out the evidence markers of the pictures of the bodies and then be like, they'll never know this came from evidence. Well, okay, so so if it didn't come from evidence and it came from someone at the scene, neither of those things are good, and we shouldn't be seeing them. But I personally don't think that the okay was given from Robert Fortson to release the body ones, and they were. And I can't stress enough how against I am putting words in this person's mouth in such a way where we don't know if that's actually a conversation with Robert Fortson. We don't know what they're talking about. We don't know the date. What if all that shit was a year ago? They were having this conversation. What does that say? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just threw it up there because I agree.
Yeah. And it's going to continue. And it's not just going to continue in the sense that we're talking simply about facts to be able to find out the truth, right? Like if we're talking about it, the point is for this to come to a conclusion, for us to find out the truth, and that's it. Like we've
And
reached
move
our
on.
conclusion, not drag it on forever. So I guess the way that I'm looking at it is everything that I'm going to talk about, like whatever I'm going to choose to pod or tweet or whatever, am I pushing us forward towards that? So am I helping inform to get information correct? Am I helping to educate? Am I helping to provide documents that people don't have? Am I helping to debunk something so another rumor doesn't spread? I'm trying to figure out what the purpose of starting to now be on this mission to talk about people instead of information. And I know that's kind of it's what I'm doing, because I have to be clear. If I sound jumbled, it's because I don't want to be disrespectful to you, Teresa.
No, I get it.
But
I'm in the same spot. Like, this isn't what I want to do. I want the information
it's
done, and this is
infuriating.
it is. It's infuriating because it's like little by little, this stuff keeps coming out, and it's like, okay, if I don't talk about it, I allow a narrative to be spun. And not that I think people are stupid, because I don't, but there's things that I hear or I see, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And I want to talk to you guys about it. I don't want to sit here and talk about the leaked information. I want to talk about the case. And if you go back to when this all started, that's what we were here doing. But because of these tiny little pieces, we have to keep going back to it and be like, okay, now let's put this piece back together. A distraction. That's exactly what it is.
It is.
But
and it's effective.
The problem is they essentially, they'll put out the important pieces at one point, which is why I brought up the fact that about the Todd Click statement, because you get the narrative that's put out there about, oh yeah, that nobody thought it was a ritualistic sacrifice. See, the defense are a bunch of idiots, and they don't know what they're talking about. Even their main person says it's bad. Well, no, that's not what he said in full context. So that's where I struggle with this, because now if I had just let it go, then would anybody have ever heard the other part of it?
Correct.
And
Is
so I
that
have to
not
keep
clear
going
to anybody?
back to
Like,
this, and I don't want to.
Like, is anybody confused about that? Like, how that happened? Like, does anybody really think that we didn't pick the part of the statement that would kind of confirm what we were saying before then, in a much smaller way, releasing the other stuff that negated what we first put out? You know what I mean?
I do.
Like anybody's, like, that was it's literally like cropping a screenshot and putting it out, and then somebody that you sent it to before, like, put it out, the full screenshot, and then you're like, oh yeah, they did say all that. You know what I mean?
Right. So that's why I keep putting it all in here so that it's there. And I'm telling you, you got to, and what like Defense Diaries just said, the timing is everything. I put it in here to show you guys. Look what the defense does. Defense here puts out a press release. What happens when the press release comes out? You get the clothing pics. Isn't it ironic? All of a sudden, people knew back in December that the girls' clothes were switched, or that one had the other's clothes on. How does somebody know that in December of 2022? Right? When we don't even have discovery. Defense doesn't have discovery. So where's that information coming from? And then, you can go through the timeline. This is why I made this, and everybody has access to it. Go to the next one. Guess what's happening? You have in December, supposedly is when this email is going out, when they very first get the first batch of discovery. And then you have an email that is sent to Brandon instead of Brad. Now, guess what? Nobody ever talks about it. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares. Nobody knows. Nothing's happening. All of a sudden, guess what happens? August 8th, there's a deposition of Tony Liggett. August 9th, there's a deposition of Tobe Lesenby. August 10th, the defense deposition of Jerry Holman. Lo and behold, guess who's talking to Brandon Woodhouse now that they know he has this, and is sending all of this information out to social media? Ironic.
Also,
go down to the entry.
Is it not weird that the photos that were supposedly used for the depositions of the 3 people you just stated in the month of August are also the photos that were leaked and apparently stolen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all the same timing, same everything. So then you get the F tree.
The photos
Barbara McDonald was on court TV.
They were deposition exhibits for those people. Do we understand that? Like, they were deposition exhibits for those 3 people you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Out of
same photo.
30 depositions.
Come on, just put my t-shirt on.
Tiny humans. So you get the F tree. Guess what's happening? September 18th, we all know the memorandum comes out. Barbara McDonald shows up on court TV. Now, September 22nd, all of a sudden, we have the messages now that I have to add in here still, where Fortson's telling Mark about the F tree. And then they get together and they decide they're going to manipulate the F tree and they're going to put it out on social media together. And that's all okay. Great guy right here. Great guy, involved in 3 leaks so far that we know of since the defense has actually joined since an arrest. And there is even a defense team. And here he is posting it on there. Oh, nope, that can't be the end of it, right? Because wait a minute. Here we go. Here's all the things that are happening from September into October. And then guess what happens? Gull says, you guys don't work on the case anymore because you guys committed gross negligence. Guess who's part of this leak also? Isn't it ironic? How many coincidences does it take to not be a coincidence? That's, I don't know. Like, that's crazy to me. All right, so I'm gonna go back to. I just wanted to show you guys the time. The timing matters. It does. Look at everything that happens. The defense does some big move. Guess what? Something has to get leaked, and then it gets blamed on the defense. Is it the defense's fault? No fucking idea. My point is, there's something going on there with the timing of it. Now, so they talk about the clothing pics, and they talk about their internet crank. They next start talking about the fact that Woodhouse and the index and that Rosie didn't know. And then they're talking about that Woodhouse gets arrested and that's how everybody found out. And then they slightly throw in there, oh, by the way, yeah, and then Mark posted some of it on the internet. No big deal. No big deal. He's still a good guy. Because remember,
I still don't understand why Fortson didn't post them himself.
well, the narrative is that he didn't post them himself because he kept getting his post kept getting denied. But we don't see that actually. That's not the conversation happening in the messages that are now being released. We don't see any context that supports that. So the other thing they talk about is that they talk about how they're manipulating, that there's manipulation to the F-tree picture before it goes out. Still downplaying the fact that any person who actually cares about justice is just over here manipulating crime scene photos to put out on the internet just to see what people think. Interesting. Good guy right there. Really cares about justice. They say that in the messages that Fortson sends Robert Cohen the crime scene photos via Reddit, but those posts are now deleted. I found that interesting because one of the supporters that was blatantly defending Mark Robert on Facebook stated, it's important for you guys to know that Mark Robert didn't get those until October 3rd, and he got them in an email that had 20 attachments. So which one is it? Both defenders of Mark Robert both have a totally different story about how Mark Robert got the crime scene photos.
It would be way easier to just ask Mark Robert, but even though he supposedly did nothing wrong, he refuses to speak, even to like Murder Sheet. Like, do a thing like where you're in control of answering the questions.
Do a podcast.
Yeah,
go do your thing.
Like, yeah. So and I still don't understand why they would deny his posts, because all these people that are responsible for approving or denying the posts all say they've had conversations with him. So if the information's legitimate and they'll let Mark post it, why wouldn't they let Robert post it? If they've had conversations with him about the information he knows and they're fixing to post all that shit too, why would they deny or decline his posts but let Mark do it?
I don't know. Yeah, because your reasoning behind it would be the fact that you don't want these types of pictures posted in the group. But then if Mark posts it, it becomes okay. But we don't even see a conversation that's actually being talked about. Maybe that exists. Maybe it doesn't. We don't know because we don't get to see the full conversations and be a part of what actually happened. We might get to know that next week, where we get to come back on here again and go, look, we figured out another little piece of the puzzle. A little piece of the puzzle that we get to put in here. Like, oh, look, they give us some breadcrumbs. Oh my gosh, and they're so great. Yeah. Like, bullshit. You're not telling the truth. And if you were telling the truth, you'd have no problem just putting it out there. Yeah, because he can't keep his fake story straight. That's what I think. But you know what? Who knows? Because anybody who's protecting him is saying, wait a minute, he's cooperating. He's doing the right thing. He decided to contact law enforcement and blah, blah, blah. But wait a minute. But he's still super active, giving information out. Bullshit. Oh, Precision Overload came in here just really nice. Yeah, she was a real nice one. Yeah, she's got a mouth on her. I don't think she's a big fan of mine, but that's fine. So anyway, so then supposedly, and there's should I play this part? Maybe I should. Because the wording of it is very particular, and I think it was done intentionally, the way that this was worded, because it talks about that around this time that Robert Fortson tells Mark that he did give some type of information to somebody else. They are very clear though, and this is one of the things I really agreed with that they said, we don't know if that person was actually, and I'm totally paraphrasing, this is not a quote, we don't know if that person received crime scene photos or what information was actually sent to this other person. So I thought that was an interesting comment.
Make no mistake. Make no mistake. These are written and then read. So everything is careful and purposeful and thought out. You know what I mean? It's not like right now where we're just like having a conversation. It's let's sit down and read this thing that we created for this episode. You know what I mean? It's much more organized.
Right.
And so nothing that's said was not purposely. This goes for any podcast.
If you're writing it out, then everything, there's definitely intent behind exactly what you're saying. I think there's specific words that are used on purpose. I agree with you 100%. It's not like here I can just willy-nilly say somebody's name wrong when I called, David Derrick. That's how it goes because I'm live and it's just going. Let me see if there's anything else that was like part of this initial information. Oh, they talk about that Fortson went to Franklin and the defense asked him to look through the case and poke holes in it. Okay, now the reason I want to make sure that we talk about that is because we have, I'm going to see if I can find the right one. Maybe it's the first one. Here it is. Did I already skip it? Oh, shit. I don't know. Maybe it was in the comment section. But they're talking about that, he's sitting in Franklin with all of it. Why can't I find that now? Did I totally lose it?
You definitely read it.
I know I did. Let me go back. Hold on. I probably just didn't pull it up on its own, and now it's lost. Here it is. I should be next weekend. I'm sitting in Franklin with it all. They want me to punch holes in all their stuff and look at stuff to see if anything stands out to me that they are missing a connection on. Okay, so now all of a sudden we have Murder Sheet coming out saying the defense asked him to poke holes. There's nothing in here that says anything about the defense.
Why would they need holes poked? If anything, since it doesn't say, like I said earlier, I would, that's an opportunity I would take as a prosecutor saying, as a normal person, look through this and tell me what it is that you would need from me to show you in order for whatever reasonable doubt you have to go away. So I don't see where you would imply that this was to the defense.
Right. Well, because we don't have any context showing that this has anything to do with the defense. Maybe he's sitting in Franklin with the discovery from the prosecution. So I can sit here with this same information and I can push a completely different narrative out here. Instead, why not just put out the entire context and say this is what was happening? Now, the next part of that comes down to how do we know that Robert Fortson is telling the truth no matter who gave him whatever to poke holes in?
I'm glad you said that. Because
we don't even know that he's telling the truth about anything.
Yep.
We have no idea who this guy is. We have no idea if he's Mr. Honest, good guy. We don't know anything about him. He could just be sitting there trying to blow smoke up Mark Cohen's ass. Mm-hmm. That he's like, oh, look at, I'm so, I'm going to poke holes in all this. Okay, now here's the next thing. I actually sent Robert Fortson all my videos on my theory of the Delphi case, and I asked him to poke holes in it. So he's sitting in Franklin with all of my videos with my theories. That's not true, but I can tell you that.
I thought you were telling an actual story for a minute. I was like, you did? No.
I know that could come across really well, right? Because I could totally tell you that he's poking holes because I have Apophis sent him everything. Because I have Apophis is right here in the message. So maybe I have Apophis sent him everything, and he's sitting in Franklin with all of it, and he wants that. I have Apophis wants him to punch holes in all this stuff and see if he can make a connection. So you see what I mean? Like how easy it is just to say whatever the fuck narrative I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I have issues. Like I don't know why we have no idea what the hell he's talking about, but yet they're gonna push that the defense asked him to look through the case and poke holes. Well, you got to prove that. But now there's going to be people, and it's going to be like a constant battle of, people are like, well, Robert Fortson was looking through stuff for for the defense. And it's like, who prove it? Prove that ever happened. Prove that he even said that. And prove that what he said, no matter which way you look at it, is true. Sorry, I have a pause. I know he's like, what are you talking about?
Again, and I have a couple other spots, particularly the two that I sent you in Messenger that I'd like to talk about in terms of what you just said. How, first of all, prove to me that these are even actual real messages, right? But
Right.
on top of that, there were certain things that were said that I was like, how would you even, and you don't have to play it, we could just read it. But I'm like, how would you even know that he was even telling the truth? And now we're talking about it as if it's the truth, but especially when we're talking about things that didn't have a picture to show. So if you're talking about just information that you supposedly got from the defense, like Joe Blow is the next one we're going to say is Odinist. How do you know that unless you've seen something that says that was what they were going to do next? And when we were talking about timing, they mentioned something about the next person that was going to be accused. And I find it again, I'm like, it keeps bringing me back to this save our ass kind of thing, because we found out whatever, that we were the next one to be accused. Do you know what I mean? Yep. So they had to go before that happened.
I'm going to save those right now.
Are these the ones? Am I looking at the ones where Fortson was trying to get a hold of Mark, like right before he died?
Yeah. So because the end of the podcast today, the reason I wanted to bring this up before we move on to the other thing, where they talk about that that Fortson's getting wind that these crime scene pictures are out there, and he's trying to get a hold of Mark. They don't go into this. They don't talk about this part. They just say that Fortson sent Mark a couple more messages that Mark never responded to. So I wanted to show those because this is supposedly, once again, from Mark with a screenshot of Robert trying to get a hold of him and him not responding.
Zoom in. Does it say T-Mobile at the top?
It does.
Okay.
The other thing is, so I just wanted you guys to be able to see that. Now I'm going to pull these up real quick. Hold on real quick.
What date was that too? What date did he say delete everything?
So that would be Sunday, and that the 4th was a Wednesday, so the 3rd, the 2nd, this would be October 1st, supposedly.
So it was before, and then October police came to talk to him.
Maybe it's the next one. Maybe it's after everything. Hold on, because they talk about that it's they talk about that he's trying to get a hold of him after he hears the rumor around the 5th. So this would be the following weekend. So the 6th, 7th. This would be the 8th and the 9th.
So before police came to him. So what had him so?
According to Murder Sheet, he was catching wind that people were talking about the crime scene photos had been leaked. Yeah, so he was trying to get a hold of Mark. This is, like I said, that's their timeline. I don't know that. So if we're going with that timeline, this Sunday and Monday would be right then, because that's when the public started to know with that weekend.
But if they're looking at what we're looking at, so I guess my question is why not just release the things that you're using specifically for your timeline so we can understand where you're getting your timeline?
Correct. That's what I don't. That's where my whole thing comes with this gatekeeping of information.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. Why only give us these little bits of information?
Yeah.
The 11th, Kelt. Okay, so let me pull this up so you can talk about this. This is you, Sleuth.
Oh yeah, but I can't see that. I'll have to pull it up on my thing. Can't read.
Here. Can you see it now?
Yes. So this was one of my points. They said the following day on Friday, September 29th, 2023, Robert said the defense had obtained the phone records of the two victims, Libby German and Abby Williams. That message came in at 5:20 a.m. This would indicate to us that Robert was getting day-by-day updates from Mitch Westerman. So my question is, how do you know that that was true? Why did it take a year to get the victim's phone records as the defense? And what phone records from Abby if she supposedly had no phone? So those are three of my things just from that one sentence. And then on Saturday, September 30th, Robert also shared that the defense team had obtained a phone that once belonged to Johnny Messer, a man named as an alleged Odin in Frank's memorandum. How do you know that's true? So, like,
We don't.
we're saying it to try to prove. The reason we're bringing this up is to try to prove a nexus between the defense giving someone who was not, in our opinion, was not, shouldn't have been privy to information like this because it was under a protective order. And so we're saying, why did he know this? Why was the defense telling him this stuff? He shouldn't have known this stuff. It was all under a protective order. But in the same breath, we don't know if this is bullshit. Do you know what I mean?
We don't. Well, and I mean, in fairness here to them, they are only saying that this is what Roberts, or, this is what Fortson said. Is it important? I have no idea. This isn't the first time I've heard that he supposedly said stuff about the phones, but we do know based on that discovery index that they were requesting access to accounts and the Gmail of the girls. So does he change the concept to phones? So now this is going to go out and people are going to say, well, look, it's proof that that Abby had a phone. And I'll tell you right now, I've heard the rumor that Abby had a phone since I very first came onto this case years ago. That's always been a rumor.
I have those orders. I have the order for Becky that's given her the stuff for Libby's stuff, and I have the order. They're years old. The order saying that that Gmail needs to give up her stuff for her email addresses, but it's not a phone. To the parents.
So that's why I'm like, is he saying phone records? I don't know. What does it show? No idea. What does it even, do we even know this is what was said? We don't know that either. This is the whole point of like, we're just blindly having to believe what these people say with nothing behind it.
What is
and I can't do that.
What is the point of saying this? The point of saying this, in my opinion, there's only one point. The point is to point out the fact that this man, Westerman, was not stealing, but freely receiving information that they feel should have been protected from the protective order. That, like, it's not like this was a one-time thing where Baldwin had stuff stolen from him. It's to prove a point that they think is legitimate and needs to be pointed out, is that he was giving someone who doesn't work in his office anymore information that should have been covered under this protective order.
Right.
That's the point.
So
there's no other point, because whether it's true or not, we still made our point. Right?
I think so. I put the wrong link in here. Sorry. Hold on. So somebody was asking what this is. This is the transcript of the podcast that we're talking about.
I told you guys I gotta read the transcript. I wasn't joking.
You need to be able to mark stuff on it. That's just that's the flow of how this works. So there's a transcript, and this is what it is. So here, you want to talk about this one?
Even better. Yep, this one's even better. So when we're talking about the timing of everything and people benefiting and stuff like that, and I know other people don't want to hear it, but I was happy that you pointed out all those other dates that coincided with something that the defense did.
All those coincidences, it's so interesting.
Correct.
There's so many coincidences.
Like Bob thinks like the timing of it was in a sense where once they found out, like by they, I mean like the judge and the prosecution, once they found out that we were going to trial in January and there was like not going to be any holiday for anybody because we were going to have to literally spend every waking moment getting rid of these motions that hadn't been ruled on, reading the Frank's memorandum that hadn't even been read. And what did he say?
He's talking to the chat. I just posted it because I think it's important. So you're fine. You keep going.
So there's like that thing. And then my whole thing was, remember I came up that one day and I was pointing out like the timing of the different filings and what was said. And then the one where they made the discovery deadline, but there were particular things that were asked for like the day that everything was released. And I was like, look at these things. Like one was like an interview of Brad Holder, like the actual recording of the interview. There was police reports that Elvis's sister made with the police. What? Hold on one sec.
Tiny humans. You guys are talking about the height in here. From everything that I can tell, the person on the bridge is around 5'10", and that's by talking to people who are much better at math than me. So the 5'5", it's come out now that Richard Allen was 5'5". That's what the prison he's at now has released, that he was 5'5", and I don't remember his weight now. Do I still have that?
Like 170 something, I feel like, but I don't. Who knows what he weighed before? So, in having all that in mind, I had heard that somebody else, because they had mentioned it in their first one, that he was going to, you'll be surprised when you see who the next one they accuse is. You know what I mean? And then it kind of got dropped. So then, with this, I was like, They said the conversation centered around one public figure in particular. That public figure has long been some skibbity toilet song. I don't around
Good background music. Probably get me copyrighted on music.
Yeah, really. Conversation centered around one public figure in particular. That public figure has long been the subject of what seemed to us to be ridiculous rumors and outlandish theories. We do not wish to contribute to that mess by actually naming the person, so we will be declining to do so. This speculation just strikes us to borrow blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Reddit bears what R wrote there, made a comment, the Moscow murder
This was the
subreddit.
part that was really weird to me. So I'm glad that you actually, this is one thing that we're talking about, because it got really mushed together in the way they were speaking, and I was like, what? At the end of it, I was like, I don't understand.
Well, now you're throwing out there Sandy Hook, which is a sensitive subject for a lot of people. So now you're throwing that in there. And then talking about conspiracy theorists, because remember, like, people were saying the kids were not real. They were like, the whole point is to like play up how they were about to accuse this public figure of being an Odinist. And that's somehow like equivalent to the mass level of speculation that came out with that one. Like they're saying, for what it's worth, we think our
Fortson's telling the defense team to stay away from the speculation and blaming families and because they're just like, thank you,
who are you?
Thank you so much, Mr. Robert Fortson, who now all of a sudden we have some form of relationship with. They also say that in one of the messages, it's apparent like that Fortson has some type of personal relationship. This is my FYI. This is me putting it all together and not quoted, but they're like, it's obvious that he has like some form of personal relationship because he refers to him as Andy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right.
So that means that Andrew Baldwin and Robert Fortson are now friends, and Robert Fortson is now working with the defense team. I don't. That's a lot of implications that I have nothing to show that that's true.
So they said in his communications with Mark, R said trouble might be ahead. Keep in mind, okay, this conversation with Mark was before the leak, before all the shit hit the fan, and Robert was allegedly telling Mark that trouble might be ahead for one specific public figure because the
Mhm.
defense was planning to smear that person either as an S, I don't know what that means, or at least to something I can't see,
Hold on, let me take this down. Sorry.
at least to someone who was adjacent to Odin. He expressed hope that they would not do such a thing with minimal evidence. And I'm here to tell
This
you,
was like they said that the person is either an Odinist or at least someone who is adjacent to Odin. So that's why I said it's very mumbly. But I had to go back and listen to this part a few times, just trying to figure out what the hell they were talking about. Um, so it's like
well,
this person is
you're
either
saying,
an Odinist or I think they say Odinist, and then they're like or Odinist adjacent or adjacent to Odin.
and you literally told us that it was a public figure that has long been the
It won't
subject
name
of
that
what
person.
yeah, you won't name them, but you're given enough information to start whittling down who might be connected to Odinism. Okay.
Do
But
you
my
have? Oh, I'm gonna pull up your transcript because the next part after this is important and in wording on how the narrative gets pushed. So let me pull up your whole thing.
and I'm just gonna say outright, if if it comes down to it, that is referring to either Holman or Liggett or Shane Evans or Nicholas McClelland, the whole leak situation becomes much more organized and suspicious looking to me. And that's because you put that out, not because I'm like making it up in my head, but you said that. So, what public figure was about to have a really hard time because the defense was about to start bringing their name into it? Now, all of a sudden, the defense is gone. I think that's a reasonable question.
Mm-hmm. It is, but that it's tough though because on
'Cause that's
podcasts
a motive.
you can't ask any questions either.
But that's motive. I mean, that is, I mean, essentially for someone that could be motive.
I'm trying to figure out where the heck you have this at.
I,
The conversation centered around. Hold on. Let me find this piece so I can show you guys what's after.
I'm looking too. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I don't even remember what page it was on.
Here it is, right here. The conversation center. Okay, so here it is. So
Zoom us in.
this communication with Archer said her trouble might be ahead for one specific public figure because the defense was planning to smear that person either as an Odinist or at least to someone who was adjacent to Odin. He expressed hope that they would not do such a thing with minimal evidence. Where's the part they say, well, we won't name that person? Is that up here?
Yeah, it was the one before that.
Oh, I guess it was, and I just because it's not said in the same tone that makes it, it doesn't stand out as much to me because the tone here is, we do not wish to contribute to that mess by actually naming the person, so we will be declining to do so. The speculation just strikes us as they don't say to borrow, they say as there's something there. Anya's term is more like it's Delphi fan fiction. So
Says who?
by
It says
claiming
you.
right, so by
Says
claiming
you.
that
You
there
don't
is
know.
potentially a person who is adjacent to Odin or an Odinist that is a public figure, it tells you this is what the epitome of gaslighting is, that if you start to believe that anybody who is a prominent figure is attached to Odinism, then it's fan fiction or I don't. This is not
You're
the word that it is though.
speculating, and it's ridiculous, and it's
Yeah,
rhetoric, and it's all
yeah,
just pure
illusions and
correct.
rhetoric and just fan fiction. If
But you
you
don't
don't
know.
believe what's being sold to you, you're essentially an idiot who believes all of this other stuff. That's what this is. And that's where I was just like, ooh, what am I
It,
how am I
it's
not going to
it's
talk about this?
almost like foreshadowing. Like, wouldn't it just be crazy if now all of a sudden, all this stuff and conversations are being leaked, and now all of a sudden, the name gets out there somewhere, and it's like We've already been given the warning that it's completely absurd and you're essentially a conspiracy theorist for thinking it. However, if I'm really thinking about it, my initial reaction when I read that was, who was about to be exposed? Like,
Mm-hmm.
not for nothing, but people make dumb decisions when they're scared. Like,
Mm-hmm.
completely ridiculous, non-normal in their everyday thinking decisions. And so, who is this prominent figure and what was about to be exposed that now won't? Because now we have these other two lawyers that come in. And like I said, I think, I don't know if the whole thing's going to be dropped, but I think that everybody that knew what was happening knew that as soon as new lawyers came on, that Frank's memorandum was going to be, it was going to kick rocks, because there's no way in a reasonable amount of time that the new defense would possibly be able to effectively argue that motion that's filled with
I
information and discovery they hadn't gotten yet and depositions they didn't perform. So somebody's ass was on the line and got saved, in my opinion.
there. Well, here's the thing: is putting all of this out there in the little bits, chunks, and whatnot, and not giving us the full story, is going to lead for anybody to go one way or another. That's
Correct.
just how it is, because we have to fill it in with our own opinion and our own thoughts. It's the same with like all the leak stuff. That's my opinion. Putting that all together, the timing is coincidental for me. That's why I put it there. I'm the one who made it. It's my thought. You know what I mean? So if you actually just have, here's your facts, here's what it is, and here's proof that that's what it is, we don't have all this differing opinions being added into it. So that's what I'm saying. How does anybody say your opinion is wrong when they're over here telling us, they're telling us that if we have that opinion, that we're just part of the Delphi fan fiction creating illusions and rhetoric.
But again, like, not for nothing, but says you, and you don't know everything unless you do. If you know everything, then that's another problem. But otherwise, you don't know. Like, saying that anything is, you're welcome, is impossible. Just like when it got brought up that these guards were wearing Odin patches, people were like, "That's absurd. Stop with the
Yes.
conspiracies. There's
Did
no
he?
way that they're wearing those on their prison issued uniforms." And then they write affidavits, including the warden, saying, "Yeah, they were wearing them, and I was letting them."
Yes. And then Vinnie Politan is like, yeah, wait, what? Like it's real? What?
I'm glad that Matt
Masons
Sullivan
are
said that, because
Masons can be Odinists. That's not unheard of. But Masons doesn't, just because you're a Mason doesn't mean that you're an Odinist. That's not how that works. But I mean, you can be both. I obviously we have Brad Holder, who is a Mason and is also practices Odinism.
I'm just
Hold on.
saying, I would love to know who they were fixing to say was an Odinist or Odin adjacent, because if it was any of those four people, in particular, any of the three people that I'm thinking of, I just threw Shane Evans in there because I know he's been mentioned and his decisions were a little odd. I feel safe to say that you've given yourself away. You know what I mean?
Sorry, I got interrupted, so I missed what you said.
That's okay. It's usually me. Like, I usually send multiple messages and I can hear them go ding, ding, ding in the background.
So many tentacles. There's so many tentacles. Because I'm like, why can't it just be straightforward? This is what I can't stand. It ends up being just so much bullshit instead of just, here's what we have. Just put it out there. Let's put it to bed and move on. And we can all go back talking about the case instead of talking about who leaked what to who. And the reason it keeps being talked about so much, in my opinion, is to stop people from believing where it came from. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
keep filling us with bullshit, keep filling us with bullshit, and then by that time nobody knows anything anymore. Did you mute? You did. Okay, so let me see. I had some. I'll probably just throw this into the timeline because we've already been on for 2.5 hours, and I don't want to keep rehashing some of the same stuff. But I was gonna put in. I wanted to show you guys some of the commentary. You guys remember back when this whole thing started? I randomly came across this account of Robert that was commenting under Rick Snae's videos about how he had all this information back in April, May, and that he got it from the Yellow app. And
Oh yes, yes.
You remember all that? So I have
And
so many
also,
more comments.
Didn't they travel like to Paris to talk to Yellow? Didn't they travel somewhere to talk to the Yellow app people?
They did. I don't know if that's who they talked
Okay.
to there. Somebody in chat might know more than I do, but they did go to
I thought for sure I heard that they went to speak to the creators of Yellow or whatever.
Very well could have, because it's now Ubo or something like that. YUBO. I don't know. I've never used it, never heard of it, didn't know anything about it until this. So yeah, but it
so
was
in
at
theory,
that time
if
it was
they
the
happened
Yellow
to
app.
find out that there were photos from a crime scene of 2 deceased children that went to Yellow, I would imagine that that's something that they would do, which would give a little bit more credence to what he says here in these messages, in these comments.
Right. So I found a bunch more, or a friend of mine actually was sending me a bunch more of the comments that this account has made all over YouTube. So I was going to go through all those. I just don't know if I have time to do that now. There was something else from their podcast I wanted to talk about before. Oh, shit, where is it?
From today's or the plan tomorrow?
No, from today's before we go to the plan for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I'm looking at my notes. Maybe we talked about it and I just don't remember it because I'm just going through my notes real quick. All right, that might be it. We've covered so much. We've covered so much. Wonder why Mark said different. Actually, I don't.
And also, when is anybody going to, like, for as much pressure as is being put on various people about this whole thing, and even now, like I said, I'm so perturbed by the comments that I saw on that Reddit thread. When is anybody going to stop saying that Mark is a bad person? Like, I'm just confused. Like, is it the actual actions that have happened that is pissing everyone off, or is it just the people? Is it people dependent? Like, it's okay if someone does it this way, but if somebody else does it, then it's not okay? Or
that's a great point.
Involved a shitbag, because it's either you have a problem with the person or you have a problem with the action. So I guess I'm just confused which one we have an issue. Like, I could have something going on in my life that's really, really sad, but if I kill somebody or go rob somebody, that doesn't mean that, like, what I did was okay, right?
Well, I mean, maybe because I like you, I think that it'd probably be fine.
It's just bizarre to me. It's selective and it's selective.
It's so
there was
selective.
another part of it. There was another part of the podcast. Maybe this is what you were thinking of. I don't know, but it just, for whatever reason, jumped into my head. At one point, they said about people saying that law enforcement has leaked stuff or whatever. They comment on that again, which when they were asked on Court TV, I found it super interesting because it was very much a beat around the bush answer. Like, did the prosecution or law enforcement ever at any stage in this investigation leak anything to you? And they were like, never,
yes.
Never like this.
Right now.
And it essentially came out to like never something under a protective order. And it's like, well, obviously a protective order wouldn't have existed until after an arrest.
I have a quote for that. Let me find it real quick. What they said was, so on Court TV, they said, nobody on the prosecution side has ever leaked to us discovery materials that was protected by an order from a judge. That is
yes. That's a yes.
So there's a qualifier there that means that somebody did leak them discovery, but at the time it wasn't protected by an order from a judge. Nobody on the prosecution side has ever leaked it to us discovery materials that was protected by an order from a judge.
Yeah, that's a yes. That's a yes. That's just saying since the protective order went through, now we're going to say no, but it's not an outright no. They've never given us any of the evidence.
Yeah.
And actually, what's interesting is this order for the protective order, okay, that was back in February. I don't even know. Maybe I'll have Bob look through it, but it doesn't look to me at all that it even applies to the. Yeah, no, it looks to me like it only applies to the defense. Is that bizarre? It literally says, now grants said motion. The defendant and counsel for the defendant are now instructed and ordered as follows. And each line says like that one copy of the discovery material may be provided to counsel for the defense. No additional copies of the discovery material shall be made by the defendant, defense counsel, investigator, expert, or any other representative or agent of the defendant for any reason. That if copies of the discovery material are made and provided to the defendant, investigators, or experts for the defense, that sensitive and private information contained shall be redacted, blah, blah, blah. Like all of this, that no person other than the defendant, counsel for the defendant, and those persons listed in paragraph 5, which only involves the parties, counsels, investigators, and experts. I just don't see anywhere where, like each line. Oh, wait. Nope, never mind. It says the discovery material referred to in paragraph 1 and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the prosecutor's office. That's the only place that it says them. I wonder, I'm going to send this to Bob because I just wonder if the prosecution is even under this protective order. I find it odd that it says defendant, whereas like the gag order, which is different, the gag order.
Right here. So do you have that? I was just going to ask you for that, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
I do.
You want to send it to me real quick? So if you want to send it to me real quick, I'll put it up. Hi, HTC. Good to see you.
One sec. But when you see this, like it specifically mentions the state and law enforcement and the families. So I find it interesting, maybe for no reason, but I do find it interesting that it doesn't mention the state at all. Because essentially that would mean that whatever they do with the discovery is not, it wouldn't be in violation of a protective order. All right, I sent the gag order.
This is the gag order. This is what I have up. This is what I have in here is the gag order.
Oh, do you want the protective order?
Yeah.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Hold on.
Oh, that's the press release.
I have so many.
Yeah, this is the gag order that I have already in the website.
Here we go.
Is this
right, here's
the other
one I was just reading?
Okay. That might be this one. I might just not have it titled correctly. No, that's this one. Okay, let me pull this up.
It's not. It says it's order granting motion for protective order.
Yeah.
But
okay,
this
is the one I don't have in here.
I don't think I have the motion for the protective order. Where is it? Like, where's the one where McClellan asked for the protective order? Because I have a lot of documents. I don't have that.
Probably lost in the website she created. You know, she created her own website for us to have access to. So it says, comes now the court, the state of Indiana, by Nicholas McClellan, prosecuting attorney, having filed its motion requesting a protective order governing discovery, and the court, being duly advised in the premises, now grants said motion, and the state, the defendant, and counsel for the defendant are now instructed and ordered as follows.
So the
Okay, so this
defendant
is
and counsel for the defendant.
state, the state, the defendant, and the counsel for the defendant are now instructed and ordered as follows. The one copy of the discovery material shall be provided to counsel for the defendant. That no additional copies of the discovery material shall be made by the defendant, the defendant's counsel, an investigator, expert, or any other representative or agent of the defendant for any reason. That the discovery material shall not be used for any purpose other than to prepare for the defense in the above referenced cause number. That the discovery material shall not be publicly exhibited, displayed, shown, used for educational, research, or demonstrative purposes, or used in any other manner except in judicial proceedings in the above referenced action. That the discovery material may be viewed only by parties, counsel, and counsel's investigators and experts. That if copies of the discovery material are made and provided to the defendant, investigators, or experts for the defense, that sensitive and private information contained in the discovery shall be redacted, including any social security numbers, IDAC information, or NCIC information, any information related to the personal information of juveniles, including social security numbers, names, and date of birth, and FBI Sentinel information. This, I don't know if this is just bad copy or if this is supposed to be redacted and we don't get to see what that is. I don't know. That might be a bad copy because it looks like it's got a 3 there. That none of the discovery material shall be divulged to any person not authorized to view the discovery material. This includes other witnesses, family members, relatives, and friends of the defendant. That no person other than the defendant, counsel for the defendant, and those persons listed in paragraph 5 shall be granted access to said discovery material or the substance of any portion thereof, unless that person has signed an agreement in writing that he or she has received a copy of this order and that he or she submits to the court's jurisdiction and authority with respect to the discovery, agrees to be subject to the court's contempt powers for any violation of this order, and is granted prior permission by this court to access said discovery. 9 is that above final disposition of the case, the discovery material referred to in paragraph 1 and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein. Upon final disposition of this case, okay, the counsel for the defendant shall be responsible to ensure that all persons involved in the defense of this case comply with this order, that the written documents, records provided by the state with the discovery material fall under the same rules as described above. This is what she was trying to say, though, that it may pursuant to the terms herein shall be returned. She was like, no, I did give you guys I told you guys that you had to return it upon final disposition of the case. She tried to use this, but it doesn't actually work.
And she said, or the ending of your representation, and it does not say that. It just says upon final
disposition. Not, no.
So technically,
yeah. She says it's in here, though.
Yeah, it's not, though. We just read it.
Yeah. That's why I was going back and rereading it, because I was like, wait a minute.
And he actually says, it says upon final disposition, she adds that extra part, and he says, I know what order you're talking about. I read it on the way here, which was essentially saying that part was not there.
It doesn't say that.
I'm not arguing with you.
Because it doesn't do me any good. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
But it doesn't say that, so. I don't know what difference it makes, if it means that they essentially wouldn't have had to turn it over or what, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know what they want it for anyway.
But the point is she added that line. It's not there.
It's not here.
But it just seems like it's very defense specific. the whole order.
Yeah, it definitely talks about no person other than the defendant, counsel for the defendant. The only thing that actually talks about the state is up here. But everything that's written in the order has to do with the defendant and the defendant's counsel and how the defense has to do things. That's actually pretty interesting. They don't mention just anybody, anybody. They go back to say paragraph 1 or whatever, but it's like that doesn't
It doesn't even
add
say
up.
law enforcement. It doesn't say law enforcement. It says none of that stuff.
Mm-mm.
And again, just to specify, this is the protective order on the discovery. This doesn't have anything to do with the gag order, which is simply information that they're speaking. This is the actual evidence. They're saying that the evidence can't be released to, and how it can be released and who it shouldn't go to.
Yeah, is Bob still here?
I
want to know if this is pretty normal for a protection order. That it really just kind of goes to the fact that, it's the discovery is obviously being given to the defense. So is this like, hey, listen, this is the rules behind this? You know what I mean? Or should it be more broad that it has both? I don't know. I'm not actually familiar with ever specifically looking at a protection order for discovery that I can recall off the top of my head.
I'm pretty sure there's one for Idaho I can go back and look at, but I just sent him a text message. I don't know. Like, I feel like if you don't specify, then an argument could be made that I wasn't under the protective order. It's why you would specify. Like, if I was going to put in a protective order, I wouldn't just assume that because the prosecutor is the prosecutor or his investigators are his investigators that they wouldn't share. Like, if it's that serious that it needs a protective order, then you're protecting the information, not who's disseminating it. You know what I mean? You're protecting who's able to even look at it.
Somebody's trying to get my attention on YouTube by tagging me. I don't know why people do that shit. I don't care.
The only time they do that for me is when they want to like try to tell me who I should and
tell me what I should and shouldn't do and what I should and shouldn't say.
Yeah.
And try to control the narrative. Isn't it interesting?
Please fuck off, because I will talk to whoever I want to on whatever panel I want to. If I don't want to do it anymore, I won't do it because I don't want to, not because you told me.
You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me.
Where did you order all of this audacity to think that you can tell any other individual who they should be talking to? Yeah, like, I don't understand. Respectfully, mind your business.
Oh, you were going nicer than I was. So yeah, that's interesting. But now, yeah, Bob says bring up the protective order, and then I have a question, and then he just leaves.
It's up.
Bob, what the hell? I don't know. We're just probably gonna have to text him because I don't know the answer to it. So I got nothing for you here.
We may not get the answer today. I don't know if he's on court TV or what.
Oh, there he is. No, he's probably on court TV. I know, hamming it up with his suit on.
Right when I was about to start saying some stuff. I hope he heard.
I did all what we were asking. This guy needs glasses.
No, it's like, dude, it's so small on your phone. It's like not even. I've made videos where it looks huge on my computer, and then I look and I'm like, as soon as I watch it, I'm like, 90% of the comments coming through here is going to be like, who on earth can see that?
Well, I want to know, Bob, is this something that's very normal in a protection order over discovery, that it's strictly worded towards the defense team versus the broad, now grants said motion, and the state, the defendant, and counsel for the defendant are now instructed and ordered as follows. But everything that's actually cited in here is really more geared towards the defense. I mean, there's a couple things like only by parties, counsel, and counsel's investigators and experts. This could go either way. but most of it is very much pointed to the defense. So I'm just wondering, is this actually normal? Oh, hey, Travis. Maybe you can help answer that too.
Like you're going to be
I don't know
super
anything
specific.
about protective orders on discovery, so I have nothing to offer.
Like if you're going to be really specific versus just saying this is a general anything that's given or received in discovery is protected, period. So nobody that receives it or sends it can share it outside of, these 5 types of people. Would you be specific throughout, or would you, I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's cuz I'm tired. We have a Christmas pageant tomorrow. But
Ooh, fun.
yeah, it's his first one. I'm super excited. I even thought like maybe I'll because tomorrow's his last day before Christmas break, and I thought maybe I'll just come in for like the thing and just let him leave early. I would like that. My mom
Aw.
never let me leave early. She like if I was sick, like by God, I had to
He's
prove
gonna be
it.
like,
Or I
no,
was
I just want to stay. Oh,
if
so
he
Ron
does, I'll be
Logan's
like,
here.
fine, I'll go.
Okay.
Oh, shit, go ahead and stay then.
I don't know if you are interested, but Ron Logan's hosting a hog, doing a hog and a few chickens
What?
at Ron Logan's place. Yeah, troll.
Mm.
So both Travis and Bob both say that it's really poorly drafted, which I can understand,
Okay,
but so
so
it's not. Okay,
but
so
is
then my
there an
question
argument
becomes,
that it doesn't apply to me? Like, is there an argument because it is poorly drafted that it doesn't apply to me?
yeah, I don't know. But I mean, it's in here. It's for all of them, but just the numbering is so specific to the defense team. I
Oh,
wanted
I
to
have
know if
another
that's kind of
question.
normal.
I have a question about that last part. Where's that last part where it said about the part she added that wasn't there?
Yeah, here.
Okay. Yeah, read that.
So that upon final disposition of this case, the discovery material referred to in paragraph 1 and any and all transcripts shall be returned to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office or maintained by defense counsel pursuant to the terms herein. And then it goes back to paragraph 1. One copy of the discovery material. Is that what she's talking about, or is she talking about here?
Who the hell
This
knows?
would
But
be one.
the question is, it says upon final disposition, like Rosie tried to tell her in their in chambers meeting, and she added that part that said, or the conclusion of your representation, or whatever she said. It obviously doesn't say that part, only at final disposition, which hasn't happened yet. So would it have affected, like, would they have still had to give back the discovery? I can't
Well, that's
imagine
what
just
she
letting
says
them
it
keep
says.
it, but yeah, but it doesn't.
But
So
that's
if
not
it
what it says.
doesn't, so like if it doesn't because it was written like that, if they were to say, and I don't know, they probably did turn everything over, but let's just say they were like, it literally doesn't say that, we're not turning over any of this stuff. Would they be forced to? You know what I mean? So it's not weird that they didn't specifically include the state on that and law enforcement. I'm just
Wait,
wondering what
so
would stop someone in law enforcement from sharing discovery stuff. You know what I mean? That's what I'm curious
I also
about.
have a question. So pre-trial, is that pre-arrest, or is that just once somebody's arrested? Because if you go into the very specific wording that Murder Sheet used on court TV, they were given discovery prior. Is that doesn't matter?
Well, no, the way I'm reading it is, considering this doesn't include law enforcement and stuff, then if I were to say, if I got something from someone that's not specified in this order tomorrow, that's in discovery, and someone said to me, did you receive something that was covered under this protective order? My answer could be no. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Because because if that specific person that you got it from is not covered under this protective order, then you saying, no, I received nothing from the people that are covered under the protective order would be
Mm-hmm.
the truth.
Post arrest. Okay. Post
MS said
arrest
they
before.
never given discovery by the state. Do you have that quote handy? Because that's not what they said.
No, that here I have it right here. I'll pull it back up. It says nobody on the prosecution side has ever leaked to us discovery materials that was protected by an order from a judge.
Right. So not just period.
There's a qualifier there. That's important
Correct.
to note.
Yeah. I agree. Because, like I said, if you were to argue that, you could argue that that's not covered in this order. So, no, they didn't give me anything that was covered under a protective order signed by a judge.
That's true. You have to make this stuff so a fifth grader can understand it. Pretrial is from arrest to when jury selection starts. Okay, makes sense. It's all semantics. My question is, if indeed Nick has a slam dunk, why all the shenanigans? Why wouldn't he just put this to rest? If the facts show RA is the killer, why keep dragging this out? Well, now Sinclair, it depends on your interpretation and what you believe. And this is kind of the whole conversation we're having tonight, because if you believe that this has anything to do with Nick, that would be your question. Now, if I'm going to do the flip side, my thoughts are Nick's sitting there. He's ready to go to trial. He didn't do anything. The defense is the one who's leaking all this stuff and making all these mistakes and committing gross negligence. So why does the defense screw up so bad that Richard Allen can't go to trial? That's the flip side.
Also, maybe the next episode should be explaining the actual charges against Richard Allen so people can understand. I think that would be beneficial.
True. You want to do that right now?
So if we're creating content in order to contribute to a case, whether we're providing information or education, stuff like that, it seems that would be a better topic than perhaps like talking about a group of people for whatever reason. Maybe going back to square one and helping everyone understand that they might get to trial and there be no evidence. Even if he's found guilty, you may not hear any evidence of what happened to those girls apart from them being told to go down from the bridge. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like the closure that I feel like everyone's expecting and evidence they're expecting to hear might not necessarily come because they're not understanding the charge. All they have to do is prove that the girls, once they left the bridge, they died before they were seen again. You know what I mean?
Right. But here's the problem. If that's all they go in there to prove, if that's all that is proven, then people are never going to know what actually happened to the girls.
Right. So why would anybody be okay? Listen to me. Here's a question. If Richard Allen, everybody wants to talk about this. If everybody wants to talk about this confession, if Richard Allen confessed multiple times in one phone call to whoever about killing the girls, as they say, why wasn't his charges upgraded? Because you now have an audio taped confession.
Well, that's a great question, because if we're going to put so much weight on this confession, as social media seems to do, he's confessing supposedly that he did this, right? Why aren't the charges upgraded to first-degree murder? I mean, to the
and you can't
intentional.
say it's because they don't have enough evidence to have a confession.
It is in Indiana.
You know what I mean?
Correct. And this is the same theory I always say. Like, I can go into a police station and say I did whatever. If they don't have any evidence to support that I actually did it, they can't do anything to me.
Right. Or when the rumors were going around that there was a plea deal, but like that he was offered some type of plea deal, but that he didn't take it because he didn't want, and this is supposedly coming from like this leaked discovery stuff and trial strategy, okay, that he didn't take it because he didn't want to provide details to the court and that information getting out. But like, no one's willing to consider that a plea deal may have been offered, but he had to provide details in order to get a judge to accept that, and couldn't do so.
Correct.
Not that I'm saying
Because there
plea deal
wasn't enough
exists.
evidence
I'm
to
just
support
saying it doesn't necessarily have to be that you didn't want to give information. It could very well be that you couldn't because you don't have the information.
Travis said the experts counseling, the consulting counsel, etc., that order is unconstitutional and requires prior approval of court to show the materials to an expert. There is no mechanism for defense counsel to get approval without the DA knowing.
Oh,
That's actually
well, that's
very
bullshit.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. They'd have to go through before they're allowed to share. They have to sign off on this for the court. I don't know if that can't be right. They can't do that, right? All persons involved in the defense of this case comply with this order. Okay, so the counsel for the defendant shall be responsible to ensure that all persons involved in the defense of this case comply with this order. This right here is
his charge. Wait a minute. His charge is not death penalty eligible. He is not charged with killing the girls while committing kidnapping. He's charged with kidnapping them, and in the commission
that led to their death.
To commit that, they died.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that he killed them. He's not charged with knowingly and intentionally killing those girls.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a death penalty. There is the death penalty. They don't really hardly ever put anybody to death, but neither does Idaho. And Brian Kohberger has the death penalty against him.
Right.
But what he is charged with is not death penalty eligible. It's not even life without parole eligible. This is what I mean about something so simple. It should have been one of the first things that was being disseminated and educating people on would have been helpful. The charges, because most people out here walking around think that that we're going to go to trial and they have to prove that that he killed them, and that's not at all what they need to prove.
Yep.
And in my opinion, I'm not okay with not knowing who killed them. So even if he's found guilty of the kidnapping, would you be okay with not ever knowing who it is that actually killed them?
No.
I wouldn't.
This is what I was trying to explain the other day. It's like people think that he's the one who did it. They don't have evidence to prove that he's the one that did it. Because if they did, why wouldn't they charge him where they could actually give him life without parole or a death sentence? So they don't have evidence to support that. So expecting to see evidence in the trial that supports that makes no sense. So we're going to be left with questions when this is all over.
Unless there's some other people or person. But regardless, it doesn't matter if they're not investigated and charged. It is not an added. Listen, I just want to explain this because I hear it everywhere. Don't you hear
That's
people
wrong
all
state.
the time talk
Wrong state. Indiana isn't like that. This isn't an added element. That's not how this one is charged. It's not how the state charges. So it's not like you have it's considered an enhancement. That's not how Indiana does it. So that's common for other places. Like you'd get first degree murder and then you'd get an enhancement or another charge for the kidnapping. But that's not Indiana. Indiana doesn't do it like that. They are charging him with murder, but it's literally states that it's the girl, like Sluethie already said it, so I'm just going to be repeating it essentially, that he was kidnapping them and that led to their death. Whether he actually killed them or not is irrelevant. It's felony. Does that make sense? So there's no, it's not an enhancement. It's not a separate charge.
It's not an
You know, they could
aggravating
do like the 3
factor.
different murder charges. They could do like felony murder, and that's just not how it is. He's charged with felony murder too. But I'm just saying, yeah, they could do all these different things. So he's not charged that way. I would, you know, Defense Diaries, I think it would be very interesting if you and Allie did a live discussing the common parts of a gag order versus a protective order, and then also just talking about the charges and what that actually means.
Yeah, I love it when I see a comment come through saying like the Franks memorandum violated the gag order, and it's like,
yeah, if you guys could just
you're
go
angry
through
for
on
no
a
reason
legal
because it
perspective and
doesn't.
just show what it is. Felony murder is a murder charge without the requirement to prove intent. Yes, but it's not. My problem with it is it's not death penalty. You cannot sentence that type of murder to death penalty or life without parole. So
Correct.
if they
It's 4 to
had
5.
if they had the proof that it was in, you know, that's what he did, they would charge him with that in order to keep him locked up longer. That's my problem. I get that it's still a murder charge the way they have it, but it's not a death penalty, life without parole sentence. So why wouldn't you charge him if you had the evidence to get him locked up forever?
So the sentencing guidelines for this, if he were to be found guilty, is 45 to 65 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. And then I hear people talking about aggravating fact, that the kidnapping is considered an aggravating fact. Like, so they'll say something to the effect of, it's actually not a weak charge, it's a stronger charge, because they not only have to prove that he killed them, but they also have to prove that he kidnapped them. And that's not true.
Well, so I'm going to tell you guys right now, my StreamYard just took a shit, and I can't see any comments anymore. I can't highlight anything. I have no idea what anybody's saying. I'm going to pull up.
I just got a message saying murder sheet shut you guys down.
What?
Mm-hmm. It
Shut
says,
who down?
I guess you.
Oh. Did they try to copyright it?
What happened? The live suddenly stopped, and the chat. Are you all okay?
Oh,
That was
God.
weird. What happened?
Murder sheet.